The first thing my ex-husband said when I came home from the army was, "You can't stay here." He said it quietly, with one hand on the edge of the front door and the other reaching for my duffel, as if he were helping a confused guest who had arrived at the wrong address. Behind him, 8 people sat around a dining table I had never seen. Candles burned in brass holders. Music drifted out of the kitchen. Somebody had opened the good bottle of bourbon my father gave me the year I made Sergeant First Class. A woman in a cream sweater occupied my usual chair. I looked at Owen, then at the porch number over his shoulder, 1418. Same number I had repeated to myself on bad nights in 3 countries. Same brick house. Same crooked porch column Owen had promised to fix before my last deployment. "I live here," I said. His face tightened. Not with guilt, with annoyance. "The army's over, Mara. You don't have a home here anymore." He was standing in mine. The cab driver was still at the curb. I could hear his trunk close, then the engine idle as he waited to see whether I had forgotten something. I almost turned around. That would have made sense to everybody watching. The tired soldier sees the party, realizes life moved on, takes her one sad bag to a motel. Instead, I stepped across the threshold. Owen didn't move quickly enough, so my shoulder brushed his. He smelled like cedar sawdust and the cologne I had mailed him from Frankfurt 2 Christmases earlier. The foyer looked wrong. Owen had painted over the deep green we chose after arguing through 6 sample cans. The brass hooks where my field jacket and my father's old denim coat used to hang were gone. In their place was a framed photograph of the house at sunset. No people, just the house. Mara. Owen shut the door and kept his voice low. "What are you doing?" "Coming inside." "You should have called." "I did. You texted from Atlanta. That was the call you answered." Someone at the table laughed, then stopped when nobody joined in. Owen glanced toward the dining room, and I saw him make a choice. He straightened his back and put on the patient expression he used with clients who wanted load-bearing walls removed for the price of paint. "I thought you were staying on post tonight. I cleared post yesterday." "You said the 28th. It is the 28th. His eyes moved briefly to the grandfather clock by the stairs. It had belonged to his mother, and it had never kept correct time. Apparently, it still didn't. A woman came in from the dining room carrying a folded linen napkin. She was about my age, maybe a little younger, with reddish-brown hair tucked behind one ear and a face arranged in careful concern. "You must be Mara." There are sentences that tell you more than the speaker intends. Not Master Sergeant Vance, not Owen's ex-wife, not even hello. "You must be Mara," as if I were a weather system she had been warned might arrive. "And you must be sitting in my chair," I said. She looked toward the table. "Oh, it wasn't my best work. 21 years in the army and I came home with the social grace of a shovel." Owen exhaled through his nose. "This is Paige Mercer." Paige held out her hand, thought better of it, then used it to smooth the napkin instead. "Owen said your flight was tomorrow. My flight was yesterday." Owen said, "He's been saying a lot tonight." A stocky man at the table pushed back his chair. Owen's older brother, Dean, had gained a beard and lost none of his ability to enter a conversation like he'd been asked to settle it. "Mara, maybe everybody needs a minute. I've had 14 months. That's not what I meant. I know." My duffel remained between Owen's feet. I bent and picked it up before he could decide where it belonged. The weight pulled at the scar in my right shoulder, a hot little reminder that retirement did not mean my body had agreed to stop keeping records. Owen noticed the wince. His hand moved toward me, then fell. For half a second, he looked like the man who used to warm a towel in the dryer when my shoulder locked up. Then Paige shifted behind him, and he became someone else again. "Let's talk outside," he said. "I just got inside. Mara. Owen." Dean rubbed his forehead. From the table, Owen's mother, Beverly, stared down into her wine. She had mailed me pecan brittle every November I was overseas and once threatened a postal clerk for losing a package. Now she wouldn't look at me. That hurt worse than Paige. The room itself hurt in smaller ways. The dark curtains were gone. So was the long shelf that had held my father's radio, Owen's collection of chipped coffee mugs, and a smooth black stone I carried back from Kuwait. Everything personal had been replaced with pale pottery and stacks of books chosen because their spines matched. The house looked expensive. It also looked like nobody had ever been lonely in it. "You're interrupting a private dinner," Owen said. I glanced at Dean. "Did you get private recently?" Dean's mouth twitched. He covered it with his hand. Paige did not smile. "This is uncomfortable for everyone. That makes 9 of us." "8, Dean said before catching himself. A thin woman beside him whispered, "Dean." "What?" I counted. Owen's jaw flexed. I had seen that muscle jump during arguments about money, deployments, and whether a trash bag was full enough to remove. For years, I thought knowing his face that well meant I knew him. "You can take the studio tonight," he said. "We'll figure out a better arrangement tomorrow." "The studio? Your dad's old workshop. I know what the studio is. I'm asking why you're assigning me quarters in my own house." Paige's eyes moved from Owen to me. "I thought you signed it over." The room went still in a way no music could cover. Owen looked at her. "Paige." "What?" she asked. "You said the house was settled. It is settled." I lowered my duffel to the floor. "When did I sign it over?" Paige's cheeks reddened. "I don't know. I assumed during the divorce." "Owen." He stepped closer, not quite blocking Paige from me, but trying. "This isn't the time." "Good. That means the answer will be short. Mara, you've been gone. I maintained this place. I renovated it. I paid utilities, taxes, repairs, with money from the joint account. I put 12 years of labor into this house, and I never said you didn't. You think wiring money means you were here. There it was. The argument beneath every other argument we'd had for the last 5 years. I could have answered that my name had been on the deed before our first date. I could have listed every mortgage payment, every roof invoice, every emergency transfer when his business came up short. Logistics people love lists because lists don't interrupt to tell you that you failed them emotionally. But Beverly was finally looking at me, and what I saw in her face wasn't certainty. It was fear that I might say something she couldn't pretend she hadn't heard. So I asked Owen, "Where's my furniture?" His expression shifted with relief. A manageable question. Most of it stored. Where? The garage. Some pieces didn't fit the new design. The new design for what? Paige stared at him. Owen rubbed the back of his neck. "We were discussing options. Who's we?" "Mara, stop interrogating people." I almost laughed. The word interrogating had become Owen's favorite whenever I asked 2 questions in a row. If I asked 1, I was cold. 2, interrogating. 3, controlling. By 4, the army had ruined me. I walked into the dining room. Nobody stood. That surprised me more than it should have. For 2 decades, entering rooms had triggered little ripples, chairs moving, hands lifting, conversations pausing. I had spent my last week asking people not to salute me while I carried coffee. Here, in the only place I had ever wanted to be ordinary, I had become an intruder. The table was white oak, 8 feet long with a glossy live edge. Beautiful work. Owen's work. I ran my fingers over the corner. What happened to Dad's table? Owen stayed near the doorway. "It's in the garage." "That table was falling apart," Dean said. "It leaned," I told him. "It rocked when you cut meat. You leaned too. Nobody put you in the garage." This time, even Paige let out a small, startled laugh. Owen shot her a look, and she lowered her eyes. I noticed the plates then. Roast chicken, rosemary potatoes, asparagus with lemon. Owen had cooked my favorite meal for the night I returned, only he had not cooked it for me. Beverly pushed her chair back. "I'll fix you a plate." "No, ma'am. You've traveled all day." "Yesterday." Her hands fluttered near her waist. "Well, you still have to eat." That was Beverly's gift and her weakness. She believed food could be placed over any wound like gauze. "I'm fine," I said. "You always say that." The words landed harder because they were true. Owen came into the room. Could we please finish dinner without turning this into a production? I looked at the candles, the bourbon, Paige's cream sweater, and the photograph of my house hanging where my jacket used to be. What are you celebrating? No one answered. Dean became deeply interested in his potatoes. The woman beside him folded and unfolded the corner of her napkin. Beverly reached for her wine but did not drink. Paige looked at Owen. Tell her. Mara and I are divorced, he said. I was there for some of it. We're allowed to move on. Who's we? Paige took a slow breath. Her left hand had been below the table. Now she raised it. A narrow gold ring caught the candlelight. Not an engagement ring exactly, no stone. Maybe that was why I had missed it. Or maybe my mind had seen it and refused the report. We weren't announcing anything, Paige said quickly. It was just dinner. Paige, Owen warned. No, she deserves to know. I studied the ring. Then I studied Owen. Our divorce had been final for 11 weeks. I had been gone 14 months. The arithmetic arrived before the feeling did. How long? I asked. Owen's face hardened. We were separated. That wasn't my question. We met through work. That wasn't my question either. Paige looked pale now. 7 months. Beverly closed her eyes. 7 months meant Owen had taken my calls from our kitchen, while Paige knew the color of the walls. 7 months meant he had asked me to extend the utility payments because his business was struggling while he was building a future around my dining room. I expected anger to come like artillery. Instead, I noticed one candle was dripping wax onto the table. I reached over, moved the holder onto a coaster, and said, "You have 30 days." Owen blinked. What? To move out. You can't be serious. 30 days is generous. This is my home. No. I looked around the table, giving every adult there the chance to meet my eyes. It's the place you lived while I was gone. Owen's face went red. You don't get to come back in uniform and issue orders. I had changed into jeans and a gray t-shirt before leaving Atlanta. My uniform was folded inside the duffel at his feet. I'm not in uniform, I said. And that wasn't an order, it was notice. I lifted my bag and walked toward the back door. Owen followed me into the kitchen. Where are you going? The studio. I thought you objected. I objected to you assigning it. Outside, the evening air smelled like cut grass and rain waiting somewhere beyond the ridge. The workshop windows glowed softly. Owen had put up linen curtains. My father would have risen from his grave just to tear them down. The key still fit. Inside, there was a sofa, a drafting desk, 2 staged throw pillows, and none of my father's tools. On the wall hung another photograph of the house. I set down my duffel and locked the door behind me. Through the glass, I watched Owen stand in the yard, uncertain whether he still had permission to knock. He knocked anyway. 3 soft taps, the same rhythm he used when I locked myself in the bathroom after my father died. Back then, he had sat on the other side of the door for almost an hour without telling me to come out. Now he tried the handle. I opened the door before he could knock again. You still have a key to this? I asked. It's part of the property. That's why I'm asking. He looked past me at the sofa. Are you really sleeping out here? You offered. I was trying to get us through tonight. You were trying to get your dinner through tonight. His eyes narrowed. You don't know what that dinner was. There was chicken, bourbon, and a woman wearing your ring. It's not an engagement ring. Then I'm glad we cleared that up. He glanced back at the house. Through the kitchen windows, people moved in agitated silhouettes. Paige stood alone at the sink with both hands braced on the counter. She didn't know, he said. About the house or about me arriving? The house. That's a strange thing to hide from somebody you plan to live with. I didn't hide it. You told her I signed it over. I told her the property was settled. That's not the same sentence. It was going to be settled. I leaned against the doorframe. How? Owen dragged a hand over his mouth. I thought you'd sell. To you, or sell it outright. You said you didn't know if you wanted to stay in Clarksville. I said I didn't know what I wanted to do for work. Exactly. You're not tied here." I looked past him at the porch light, the kitchen windows, the oak tree my father planted crooked because he refused to read the nursery instructions. I'm standing here. For one night. That's what you're counting on? His shoulders dropped. For a moment, he looked exhausted instead of angry. I'm counting on you to be practical. Practical. Owen used to say the word like a compliment. Mara will handle it. She's practical. The water heater fails, the insurance doubles, his truck needs a transmission. Mara will handle it. Somewhere along the way, it became proof that I had no feelings worth consulting. I'll be practical in the morning, I said. You gave me 30 days in front of my family. You told me I was homeless in front of yours. I said you didn't have a home here. I didn't mean you were homeless. I stared at him. He winced. That sounded better in my head. That concerns me. Despite himself, he almost smiled. That was the dangerous thing about 12 years. Your body remembered the route to laughter even when your mind had blocked the road. His expression softened. Come inside. Everybody's leaving. I'm tired. There's no bathroom out here. There's a utility sink. You planning to bathe in it? I've done worse with less. That isn't something to brag about. I wasn't. He looked around the studio again. The staged sofa was too short for me, and the braided rug was pale enough to show every grain of dirt. 2 framed sketches of Nashville hung above the drafting table. My father had once kept a dented metal sign there that said, "Price's Honest Repair," though his last name had been Vance. He found the sign at a flea market and claimed accuracy was less important than optimism. "Where are Dad's tools?" I asked. Owen's face closed by a degree. "Storage." "What storage?" "The unit off Dover Road." "Why?" I needed the space. "For what?" "My design consultations, some client meetings. So this is an office." "Sometimes. And you told me I could sleep in it. It has a pull-out." I turned toward the sofa. "The handle's underneath," he added. I crouched, found the fabric loop, and pulled. The mattress opened with a metallic shriek loud enough to make Owen's shoulders rise. "It always does that," he said. Comforting. There are sheets in the cabinet. I opened the nearest cabinet. It contained sample books for tile. The other cabinet. That one held a plastic package of white sheets, a thin gray blanket, and 4 tiny bottles of hotel shampoo. I held one up. "You running a bed and breakfast?" "Clients stay sometimes if they're in from Nashville. In my father's workshop. They pay." "Where does that money go? For God's sake, Mara." "That's a checking account question, not a religious one." He walked 2 paces into the room, stopped, then back toward the door as if he had remembered whose space he was entering. "We can go through every dollar tomorrow if that's what you want. I want to sleep." "Fine. Leave the key." His gaze went to the small brass key ring clipped to his belt. "Mara, you tried the handle before I opened the door. It's habit. So was being married. That landed." He unclipped the ring and worked the studio key free with his thumbnail. His hands were still the hands I remembered, broad palms, a pale scar across one knuckle. Sawdust caught near the cuticles no matter how often he washed them. He set the key on the drafting table. 30 days isn't possible, he said. 29 begins at midnight. He left without answering. I locked the door, pulled the curtains, and stood in the middle of the room listening to the dinner break apart. Car doors shut. Gravel cracked beneath tires. Once, someone raised their voice near the back porch. Dean, probably. His anger always carried better than his words. My phone showed 11 missed calls. 3 from Owen, all made while I was in the air. 2 from Beverly, 1 from Dean, 5 from Seth. I called my brother first. He answered before the first ring finished. "What did you do?" "Good to hear your voice, too. Dean said you walked into a dinner and kicked everybody out." "I didn't kick everybody out." "So you didn't tell Owen he has 30 days? "I did tell Owen that." Seth made a sound like a chair collapsing. "Mara, you've been home for what? An hour?" 2 if we include the welcome ceremony." "What ceremony?" "Never mind." He was quiet. I pictured him in his apartment across town, pacing barefoot with his phone pinned between his shoulder and ear. Seth was 37 and still moved like the teenager who used to search every room for his keys while holding them. "Did you know about Paige?" I asked. Another silence, smaller and guiltier. "How long?" I said. "I met her twice." "That wasn't my question." "You always do that." "Do what?" "Ask the question when you already know the answer." "I don't know the answer." 6 months, maybe 7. I sat on the edge of the open mattress. It sighed beneath me. "And the house? What about it? Did you think I gave it to him?" "No." "Did Paige?" "I don't know what Paige thought." "Did you know he was telling people it was settled?" Seth blew out a breath. "He said you were probably selling. Did you tell him that? You told me you might not stay. I told you I was looking at civilian jobs in 3 states. Right. So everybody assumed, everybody? Don't do that either. Ask who's been discussing my life. Turn every word into a deposition. There it was again. A military word used by someone who had never worn a uniform to explain why talking to me felt unsafe. I rubbed my forehead. "I'm not taking statements, Seth. It sounds like you are." I came home and found Dad's table in the garage and a stranger in my chair. Paige isn't a stranger to Owen. That's not helping. No, but it's true. A pipe clicked inside the wall. The workshop had its own little noises now, none of them familiar. Seth's voice lowered. "Aunt Lorraine is already upset." "Of course she is. She says you're punishing Owen because he moved on." "Did Dean call her?" "Beverly. Efficient." I had been home 2 hours and the family supply chain was functioning beautifully. "I'll talk to Lorraine tomorrow," I said. "Don't go over there in command mode." "I don't have a command mode." Seth laughed once. "You asked me to alphabetize the freezer. You kept buying food we already had. I was 29. You bought 6 bags of peas. They were on sale." I smiled before I could stop myself. Seth heard it and went quiet. "I'm glad you're back," he said. It was the first welcome I had received. My throat tightened so quickly that I stood up, as if the movement could outrun it. "I'm tired." "Yeah. We'll talk tomorrow." "Are you staying at the house?" "In Dad's workshop. Does the toilet work?" "There's no toilet." He laughed again, this time with genuine pleasure. "Welcome home, Master Sergeant." I hung up and made the bed. The pull-out mattress had a metal bar running across the middle, positioned with military precision to punish the spine. I lay down anyway, fully dressed, with my phone and keys on the floor beside my right hand. At 12:16, the back door of the house opened. Footsteps crossed the wet grass. Light flashed beneath the curtains. I sat up before the knock came, heart already hammering, one hand reaching for equipment I no longer carried. "Mara?" Paige said through the door. I waited long enough to make sure she was alone, then opened it. She had changed out of the cream sweater and into a denim jacket. Her makeup was gone. In one hand she held my bourbon bottle, in the other, 2 clean glasses. "I thought this belonged to you," she said. "It did. Does." I stepped aside. She entered cautiously, taking in the unfolded bed and my duffel. "This is awful. The mattress. All of it." I took the bottle from her. More than half remained. My father had bought it at a duty-free shop despite never leaving Tennessee. He kept it for 19 years before giving it to me and said age improved bourbon, furniture, and apologies, though he had limited experience with all 3. Paige placed the glasses on the drafting table, but did not sit. "I honestly thought Owen owned the house," she said. "I believe you." Her eyebrows lifted. "You do?" "You looked more surprised than I felt. That takes work." She pressed her lips together. "He said you didn't want anything connected to this place after your father died." My hand stopped on the bottle cap. "What exactly did he say?" "That this house was too painful for you, that you'd already chosen your life somewhere else." I poured bourbon into one glass, then the other. Paige watched me. "Is that not true?" I handed her a drink. "My father died in the front bedroom," I said. I spent the next week repainting it because I couldn't stand the color of the walls. I'm sorry. Owen did the ceiling because I couldn't lift my right arm. She looked toward the house. He told me he renovated everything alone. I let him. The admission surprised both of us. Paige took a sip. Why? Because he was proud of the work. That's a generous answer. It's the only one I have tonight. She turned the ring on her finger. For what it's worth, I'm not moving in. That's between you and Owen. Is it? I considered her. This woman who knew my kitchen but not my name until tonight. No, I said. I guess it stopped being between you two when he put my bourbon on the table. Outside, a light came on in the upstairs bedroom. Owen's shadow crossed the curtains, stopped, and turned toward the workshop. Paige saw him too. Neither of us waved. Paige finished her bourbon in one swallow and coughed into her wrist. That was smoother in my head, she said. Bourbon or coming out here? Both. She set the empty glass beside the ring samples on the drafting desk. From the house, Owen's shadow disappeared. A few seconds later, the back door opened. Paige closed her eyes. He watches windows when he's nervous. He checks doors when he's guilty. Good to know. Owen crossed the yard without a jacket. The grass darkened the cuffs of his jeans. He stopped when he saw Paige standing beside my open bed. "What are you doing?" he asked. She walked past him. "Trying to figure out which version of you I've been dating. Can we not do this in front of Mara? I'm not performing for Mara. You brought her a bottle and sat down for drinks." I returned her bottle. And I never sat. "That's your defense?" Paige turned so sharply that Owen stepped back. "My defense?" I didn't know I needed one. I picked up my glass and moved toward the far end of the studio. It was 800 square feet. There was no far enough. Owen lowered his voice. "We should talk privately. You had 7 months to talk privately. Mara asked you questions designed to upset you." "I asked one question," I said. He pointed at me without looking away from Paige. "Stay out of this. You're in my workshop. I'm speaking to Paige. Then speak quieter." Paige made a sound that might have become a laugh under different circumstances. She rubbed the heel of her hand against her forehead. "I need to go," she said. "I'll drive you." "No, you've been drinking. I had 1 ounce of bourbon, Owen. Stop making me a problem you can solve." He flinched. I knew the feeling. Paige pulled the gold ring from her finger. For one hopeful second, I thought she might hand it to him. Instead, she slipped it into the pocket of her jeans. "I'm not giving it back tonight," she said. "You'll turn it into a scene about a breakup, and I haven't decided what this is yet." "Paige, I'm going home. Don't follow me." She looked at me on her way out. "Thank you for the drink. It was yours." Apparently not. She walked around the house toward the driveway. Owen stood in the doorway until the sound of her car faded. Then he turned on me. "You enjoyed that?" "No." "Come on, Mara." You sat there asking questions like you already knew where every answer would land. I knew where they should land. You humiliated her. I told her the truth. You gave her just enough truth to make me look like a liar. You told her I signed over a house I didn't sign over. I told you I said it was settled. That's the lie. He took 2 steps inside. I didn't move, but my body counted the distance between us, the door, and the nearest heavy object. It did that with everyone when voices rose. Owen saw the change in my stance and stopped. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. "I know. Do you?" That was the trouble. I knew Owen had never hit me. I also knew knowledge and reflex lived in separate rooms. I set my glass down. "Go back inside. It's still my home tonight, and this is my bedroom tonight." He stared at the pull-out mattress. "You can't possibly sleep on that. I won't if you keep talking." He left the studio key on the drafting desk and went back across the yard. I slept for 43 minutes at a time. At 4:47, I gave up. I folded the sheets, closed the pull-out, and did 50 slow squats beside the sofa because my knees had started making their own decisions. I found an electric kettle in the bottom cabinet, but no coffee. The miniature shampoo smelled like a coconut attempting fraud. By 6, a thin blue light had spread over the yard. I unlocked the studio and walked the perimeter of the house. The gutters over the east side had been replaced. Good work, clean seams. The crawlspace vent by the hydrangeas was cracked. The back steps had begun to pull away from the foundation. Owen had painted the porch without repairing the crooked column. He had improved everything people photographed. The hidden things were failing. I was kneeling beside the steps when the kitchen door opened. Owen stood there in sweatpants and an old Austin Peay t-shirt, holding 2 mugs, his hair stuck up on the left side. It had done that every morning of our marriage. "You still take it black?" he asked. "Yes." He came down the steps and handed me the blue mug, the chipped blue mug from Germany. I ran my thumb over the white line near the handle. "I thought you got rid of these," I said. "Some are in the cabinet by the refrigerator. The shelf is gone. The shelf was too rustic. You built it." My taste changed. I drank. He had measured the grounds correctly. 1 spoon more than the package recommended because I complained American coffee tasted like hot brown water after my second posting in Europe. We stood in the damp grass, looking at the crack in the back steps. "You need a new stringer," I said. "I know. How long have you known?" "A while." "Why didn't you fix it?" "I had other jobs." I looked at the studio. "How much do clients pay to stay out there?" "Depends. On length, season, where does the income go?" He stared into his coffee. "My business account. Even though the building is mine, I renovated it." "You keep saying that like renovation changes geography. You keep saying mine like nothing I did matters. It matters. It doesn't make it yours." He walked to the steps and pressed the toe of his shoe against the rotting edge. "Let me buy the house." The offer should not have surprised me. It still did. With what? My business is doing better. How much better? Enough to get financing. Then get financing. It would take more than 30 days. That sounds like a planning problem. He gave me a tired look. "You always have to talk like that?" "Like what?" "Like everybody's failing an inspection." I drank again, buying myself time. The coffee was good. I hated that. "What would you pay?" I asked. He named a number. It was less than the balance I had expected to have in the house by then. Less than similar homes had sold for 2 years earlier. Owen knew construction costs, neighborhood values, and exactly how little he thought my attachment was worth. That's not a serious offer. It accounts for my labor. It counts your labor twice, once as equity and once as a discount. His mouth tightened. "I made this place what it is. You made it pretty. I made it livable. My father lived here 40 years. Your father thought extension cords were permanent wiring. He also knew not to paint over rotten wood." Owen looked at the porch column. "That isn't rotten. The bottom 2 inches are." He crouched, pressed his thumb into the painted base, and watched it sink. "Damn it," he whispered. I almost enjoyed that. Almost. A truck horn sounded in the driveway. Seth's faded red pickup rolled in with a portable camping toilet strapped upright in the bed. Owen closed his eyes. "What the hell is that? My brother loves me." Seth climbed out carrying a paper bag and 2 coffees. He wore work boots, cargo shorts, and a button-down shirt that suggested he had dressed for church from the waist up. "I brought biscuits," he called, "and indoor plumbing." "It's outdoor plumbing," I said. "It becomes indoor when we carry it inside." Owen looked at me. "You called Seth about the bathroom?" he asked. "I'm standing right here," Seth said. "You called Dean," Owen replied. "Dean called me. And then you called Mara. That's generally how phones work." Seth handed me the paper bag. Grease had darkened the bottom. Sausage, egg, and cheese. My usual order from the diner near his apartment. "You remembered," I said. "You haven't changed breakfast since 2009. Owen held up the mug he had made me. "She hasn't changed coffee since 2003. The 2 men looked at each other as if they had accidentally entered a contest neither wanted to win. Seth nodded toward the garage. "Dad's table still in there?" "Yes," I said. Owen answered at the same time. "We need to talk about that." "It's a table," Seth said. "Talking won't make it lighter." He went to the garage and waited. Owen remained by the steps. I followed Seth. The garage smelled like motor oil, damp cardboard, and cut lumber. My furniture had been stacked along the back wall under blue, moving blankets. The old brown sofa stood on its side. My father's radio was wedged between two boxes marked Mara, Personal, as if my name alone explained why the contents could be buried. The table rested upside down across a pair of sawhorses. It was 6 feet long, built from thick pine boards darkened by decades of elbows, hot plates, spilled coffee, and one memorable Christmas when Seth tried to carve a turkey before it had finished thawing. A gouge ran across the center where my father dropped a transmission part he had been specifically asked not to bring into the kitchen. I touched the underside. One leg wobbled. "It was doing that before," Owen said behind us. "You said it was falling apart," I replied. "It is." Seth tested the joint. "Loose mortise." "We can fix it." "We?" I asked. "I brought you a toilet." Obviously, I'm committed now. Owen moved to the opposite end. "Don't lift from there. The apron's split." Seth let go. "You want to help?" "I know where it's weak." I took one end. "Then show us." Owen hesitated before placing his hands under the frame. The three of us lifted. Halfway out of the garage, the loose leg folded. The table dropped toward my foot. Owen caught the corner against his thigh with a grunt. Seth grabbed the leg before it broke free. I held my end, shoulder burning, while all three of us swore at once. For one absurd second, we were laughing. Then Owen looked at me, and the laughter left his face. "You can't just haul it around," he said. "It needs to be repaired first. I'm taking it to the studio. I'll fix it in here. I want it where I can see it. That doesn't make it safer. Neither did putting it under blankets." Seth looked between us, still clutching the folded leg. "I can repair it." Owen's voice sharpened. "You'll make it worse." "And there it is," Seth said. "What?" "The reason everybody enjoys working with you." Owen shifted the table's weight. "I'm trying to keep it from breaking." "So am I. Mara doesn't even have the clamps she needs. Then I'll bring clamps. She doesn't know how to reset the joint." "I'm also standing right here," I said. Neither answered. We carried the table across the grass in short, awkward steps and lowered it inside the studio. It looked too large among the pale rug and matching pillows. Good. The room needed something that refused to coordinate. Seth examined the split apron. Owen knelt beside him despite himself. "You'd have to clean the old glue out," Owen said. "I know, without widening it." "I know. And brace the leg before you clamp." Seth looked at him. "I know." Owen sat back on his heels. Seth ran his thumb along the damaged wood. "You should get paid for the work you put into this place." I looked at him. He kept his eyes on the table. "Not the house, the work." "I offered to review documented improvements," I said. Owen gave a humorless laugh. "Documented." "What's wrong with documented?" "Nothing," Seth said quickly. "Everything has to fit in one of her columns," Owen said. I set my biscuit bag on the table. Columns keep people from inventing totals. And there she is. Who? The woman who thinks fair is the same as measurable. Seth went still. Owen stood, wiping his hands on his sweatpants. "I'll get my tools?" The door closed behind him. I looked at Seth. "You agree with him." He kept working the loose joint. "I think," he said carefully, "you're very good at paying what you owe. That sounds like a compliment with a knife behind it." "It's not a knife. What is it?" He finally met my eyes. "It's the only way you know how to stay even with people." "I don't keep score," I said. Seth gave me a look. "Fine, I keep records. You sent me $400 last Christmas. You needed tires. I needed you to ask why I'd driven on bald tires for 6 months. Because you hate spending money. Because I got laid off." I stopped. He pressed 2 fingers into the loose joint and watched it move. "You didn't know. You didn't tell me. You didn't ask. You said the warehouse cut your overtime. They cut everybody's overtime. Then they cut 12 people. And you or one of them. 3 weeks before Christmas. The studio seemed to get smaller. Why would you hide that from me? Seth laughed without humor. I learned from the best. I didn't hide things. You called from Kuwait after Dad's second surgery and spent 18 minutes discussing his medication schedule. You never once said you were scared. I was trying not to make it about me. No, you were trying not to be in it at all. The words hit with the clean accuracy of a round, finding a gap in armor. I sat on the edge of the drafting desk. I couldn't come home. I know. My leave was denied. I know that too. I called every day. Most days. I arranged the home nurse. I drove him to appointments. I paid for the nurse because you were driving him to appointments. And Owen sat with him. There it was. Seth looked down at the table again. That's why people are acting like he's entitled to something. Not because they think the house is legally his, because he was here. I was serving. Nobody said you were at the beach. Owen did last night. Owen's angry. So am I. I noticed. He pushed himself upright. You always turn it into one of two choices. Either everybody understands why you were gone, or they don't respect your service. There's no space for us to understand and still hate that you weren't here. I crossed my arms, then forced them down. What did you want me to do? Say it was awful. It was awful. Now. You can say it now when it's evidence. That's not fair. No, it isn't. The door opened before I could answer. Owen returned carrying a red toolbox, 2 bar clamps, and a bottle of wood glue. He looked from Seth to me. Should I come back? No, Seth said. Yes, I said at the same time. Owen set the toolbox down. I'll take the average. He knelt beside the table and began laying out tools on the rug. My father used to do the same thing on an old bath towel, every wrench parallel, every screwdriver ordered by size. When I was 10, I thought all men arranged tools that way. Then I met Seth. Seth squatted beside him. You really have to put all of those out? I need options. You're repairing one joint. I don't know what I need until I open it. That philosophy explains your garage. Owen glanced at him. Your truck has a toilet strapped to it for a humanitarian mission. I stayed by the desk trying to decide whether I was angry enough to ask both of them to leave. The decision was made for me when Owen pulled gently on the loose leg and the wood gave a soft crack. All 3 of us froze. That wasn't new, he said. It sounded new, Seth replied. It was old damage releasing. Wood has a release sound? Everything has a release sound. I said, if you 2 kill that table, I'm burying you under it. Owen looked up at me. There she is. I didn't ask which woman he meant. For the next hour, we worked without discussing houses, marriages, fathers, or layoffs. Owen cleaned old glue from the mortise with a narrow chisel. Seth held the leg steady and complained that the clamp handles had been designed by someone who hated wrists. I found rags, swept wood dust into my palm, and kept Owen from setting a metal square directly on the tabletop. Our cooperation was instinctive and irritating. Owen held out a hand, and I put the correct tool in it before he named it. Seth started to tilt the table, and both of us shifted to support the heavy end. Years had trained us in one another's movements, even when we couldn't survive one another's words. Once the joint was cleaned, Owen brushed in glue and reset the leg. Pressure, not punishment, he told Seth, while tightening the clamp. Seth looked at me. You hearing this? I'm considering hitting you with the toilet, then I'll know you value my gift. The repaired table had to remain upside down until the glue cured. It occupied most of the studio, forcing us to walk around it sideways. Owen packed his tools. Give it 24 hours. I know how glue works, I said. Do you? I've glued things. What things? I tried to remember. Seth smiled. Columns, probably. I threw a rag at him. It struck his shoulder and fell. Nobody spoke for a second. Then Seth threw it back. I caught it one-handed. That tiny exchange felt more intimate than the hug we had not shared. I need a shower, I said. Owen latched the toolbox. Use the downstairs bathroom. I'll get you towels. I have towels. Where? In the house. Most of the linen closet has been reorganized. Did my towels fail the new design? The downstairs ones are white. My towels are also towels. He rubbed his eyes. Second shelf in the upstairs hall closet, assuming Paige didn't move them. Seth whistled softly. Don't, Owen said. I didn't say anything. You made a sound. It was air. I took clean clothes from my duffel and crossed the yard. Morning sun filled the kitchen, revealing what candlelight had hidden. The quartz counter had a hairline chip beside the sink. 3 cabinet doors hung slightly uneven. A basket on the island contained lemons so perfect I suspected nobody had risked eating one. My father's house had never contained decorative fruit. Upstairs, the hallway walls were lined with framed photographs from Owen's projects. The front bedroom door stood open. That was the room where my father died, though nothing about it resembled the room I had repainted afterward. The blue walls were cream. The heavy dresser was gone. A narrow desk sat under the window, staged with a closed laptop and a plant that looked recently purchased. I went to the hall closet. My towels were on the second shelf, folded beneath guest sheets. The top one still had a faint bleach mark shaped like Florida. Owen had once offered to replace the set. I told him towels didn't need to be attractive while absorbing water. I took the Florida towel into the bathroom and locked the door. The shower pressure was terrible. I stood under it longer than necessary anyway, letting the hot water work into my shoulder. No alarms, no shower shoes, no one waiting for the stall. I should have relaxed. Instead, I found myself cataloging the products along the ledge. Owen's shampoo, Paige's conditioner, a jar of expensive face cream, 2 toothbrushes in the holder. She had said she wasn't moving in. Maybe she hadn't needed to. My phone rang while I was drying off. Aunt Lorraine's name filled the screen. I let it ring twice before answering. You're back, she said. Good morning to you, too. Don't use that tone. I've said 6 words. You can fit a lot into 6 words. Aunt Lorraine had spent 32 years scheduling surgeries at the county hospital. Retirement had not reduced her confidence that every human interaction could be corrected by speaking firmly. I was going to call you, I said. When? After I showered. You showered after calling Seth. Seth called me 5 times. I called you twice. Last night? Your phone went straight to voicemail. I was on an airplane. You could have turned it on. That tends to bother pilots. She was quiet for a beat. Are you being funny? I'm trying. Well, stop. It doesn't suit you when you're angry. I closed my eyes. What did Beverly tell you? That you arrived without warning, embarrassed Owen in front of Paige, and gave him 30 days to leave. Did she mention what he said to me? She said tempers were high. His temper had a full chicken dinner before mine got there. Lorraine sighed. I'm not discussing this over the phone. Come by. I can be there in an hour. Not in uniform. I'm not in uniform. Good. Owen always said you wear it even when you don't. I looked at myself in the mirror. Wet hair, gray t-shirt, scar near my shoulder, face more tired than old. Owen says a lot, I replied. Lorraine lived 15 minutes away in a low ranch house with blue shutters and enough wind chimes to frighten wildlife. Seth drove. The camping toilet remained upright in the truck bed, like a small white monument to family loyalty. Owen stayed behind. Before we left, I saw him on the back porch pressing a screwdriver into the rotten column. Lorraine opened her door before Seth knocked. She was 68, compact and silver-haired, wearing black slacks and a red blouse as if she had dressed for a disciplinary hearing. She hugged Seth. Then she looked at me from boots to wet hair. You got thin, she said. Hello, Aunt Lorraine. You look tired. Still hello. She pulled me into a hug so abruptly that my chin struck her shoulder. For 3 seconds, she held on hard. Then she released me and said, What you're doing to Owen is cruel. Seth stared at the ceiling. We almost made it inside. Lorraine turned and walked toward the kitchen. I made coffee. Her porch did not creak under my weight. Owen had rebuilt it while I was in Poland. I knew because Lorraine emailed photographs of every stage and ended each message with, That husband of yours is a blessing. At the kitchen table, she put 3 mugs down and shoved a plate of sliced pound cake toward me. I took a piece. It was. As of 30 days from now. You gave him 1 month to move 12 years of his life. I gave him 14 months and a retirement date. Lorraine's mouth tightened. You know that isn't the same thing. No, I said. I thought it was. That answer slowed her. Seth sat beside me, turning his mug by the handle. Lorraine lowered herself into the opposite chair. He came here every week after my hip surgery. I know. He fixed the porch. I know. He sat with your father when Seth was working nights and you were overseas. I know. Her palm struck the table, not hard, but enough to rattle the sugar bowl. Then stop saying you know, like knowing settles it. The room went very quiet. I looked at the porch through her kitchen window. Straight boards, clean railings, Owen's work. I don't think the house belongs to him, Lorraine said. I think you're acting like his leaving is the only thing that has to happen. What else has to happen? You have to admit there was a life here while you were gone. I set down the pound cake. And if I admit that? Lorraine's face softened, though her voice did not. Then maybe the rest of us can admit we helped him pretend it replaced yours. Who's we? I asked. Lorraine reached for the sugar bowl, though she took her coffee black. She moved it 2 inches, then moved it back. Beverly, Dean, me, Seth, in his own way. Seth lifted his head. Don't assign me away. You knew Owen was letting people believe the house would be his. I knew he thought Mara would sell. You also knew she hadn't agreed. I told him not to get ahead of himself. Lorraine looked at me. That is Seth's way. Seth muttered something into his coffee. What did you do? I asked her. She folded both hands on the table. Owen came here last spring. He said he wanted to make you an offer when you retired. He asked what I thought the house was worth. And I told him what the Wallace place sold for. That place has 3 acres. I'm not a real estate agent. No, but you play one when cornered. Her eyes sharpened. Do you want to hear this or win? I took another piece of pound cake. Hear it. He said he'd put years into the house and couldn't stand the thought of a stranger buying it. I told him he deserved the first chance. That's reasonable. I also said it was his home in every way that mattered. Seth leaned back. Lorraine. What? I said it. She looked at me without blinking. One thing I respected about my aunt was her refusal to hide once a bad decision had been located. Owen heard what he wanted, she continued, and I let him. Every time he called it his place, I knew what he meant people to think. I told myself everybody close to the family understood. Paige didn't. No. Did you know about her? Beverly told me. When? March. The month hit me first, then the year. I was in Romania. I know where you were. Did you meet Paige? Once. At Beverly's. And nobody thought to tell her Owen didn't own the house? Lorraine's chin rose. That was Owen's responsibility. Everybody seems very clear about whose responsibility things were after they fail. Seth put his mug down. Mara, no. She's right, Lorraine said. I liked Paige. That made it easier not to ask what she knew. You liked her? She brought lemon squares. I stared. She's polite, Lorraine added. And she listens. There was the knife, smaller than Seth's, but sharpened by experience. I listen, I said. You wait. For what? Your turn to fix whatever we're saying. I looked down at the cake in my hand. I had eaten half of it without tasting anything. Lorraine sighed. You want me to tell you Owen had no reason to feel abandoned. I can't. I didn't ask you to. You came in ready to. I came because you told me to. That's not the same as coming to see me. The wind chimes outside struck one another in a sudden gust. Seth pressed his thumb into a coffee stain on the table. I asked, what did Dad say about me at the end? Seth looked up sharply. Lorraine's face changed. Why are you asking that? Because Owen was there. You were there. Seth was there. Everybody keeps describing who sat beside him like there was a vote I missed. There was no vote. Then what did he say? She took so long that I wondered if she was building a kinder answer. He asked whether you were eating, she said. I looked away. 3 days before he died, Lorraine continued. He woke up confused. He thought you were 24 and leaving for your first assignment. He told Owen to check the oil in your car. Then he asked me if the army fed you enough because you never liked eggs. A laugh escaped me, thin and wrong. I eat eggs. You didn't when you were 19. That sounds like him. He knew you loved him. My eyes burned. I concentrated on the seam where the kitchen counter met the wall. Knowing doesn't settle it, I said. Lorraine nodded once. No, it doesn't. Seth reached across the table and took the piece of pound cake from my hand. What are you doing? I asked. You're crushing it. He ate the mangled corner. Lorraine pushed the whole plate toward us. I am not saying give Owen the house. I'm saying 30 days feels like punishment. He told me I had no home. I know what he said. He had a woman wearing his ring at my table. I know that too. Then what would you have me do? Give him 60. No. 45. Are we bidding? I scheduled surgeries. This is how adults reach decisions. He knew my retirement date, and you knew he had nowhere ready. He believed he wouldn't need anywhere. Lorraine's lips pressed together. She had no answer for that. I finished my coffee and stood. I'll review what he spent. Actual improvements. Not every hour he decided he was Michelangelo with a nail gun. Seth coughed to cover a laugh. I'll be fair, I said. Lorraine remained seated. And after he leaves? What about it? Will I see you? I live 15 minutes away. That wasn't my question. I opened my mouth and found no efficient answer. Lorraine pointed toward the sink. Come tomorrow. I need help. With what? Eating lunch? That's not help. It is if I don't want to eat alone. I understood then that Owen had not only repaired her porch, he had filled hours I never saw. What time? I asked. 12:30. I'll be here. Not 12:15. I won't be ready. I'm never early. Both she and Seth laughed. On the way back, Seth drove with one hand at the top of the wheel. The camping toilet rocked slightly in the truck bed each time he turned. You could have told me about the layoff, I said. You could have told me you were scared when Dad got sick. I didn't know how. Neither did I. That's different. Why? Because you ask for help all the time. I ask for tools, money, rides. Those are things. I watched subdivisions slide past the window. Fresh fences, identical mailboxes, flags hanging motionless in the heat. People think I chose the army over everything, I said. Seth tapped the steering wheel. Didn't you? I turned toward him. He kept his eyes on the road. Not every day. Not Dad. Not us. But you re-enlisted. More than once. The last re-enlistment got Dad's medical bills covered. I know. It also gave me a promotion I'd worked 13 years for. I know that, too. At work, people said what they needed. Fuel, transport, 6 more hours, 1 more truck. At home, everybody said they were fine and got angry when I believed them. Seth nodded slowly. We learned from the best. I let that sit between us. When we reached the house, 6 cardboard boxes were lined up outside the studio door. My name was written across each one in Owen's block lettering. What's this? Seth asked. I got out before he stopped the truck. Owen emerged from the garage carrying another box. Your personal things. Why are they outside? You wanted access. I didn't ask you to move them in the yard. It's not raining. The forecast says it will. Tonight. That still counts as rain. He lowered the box onto the stack. I need room to sort my equipment. You had room yesterday. I have 29 days now. Seth came around the truck. 28 and a half. Owen glared at him. Seth raised both hands. I'm tracking operational time. I opened the studio and began carrying boxes inside. Owen had labeled them by category: books, clothes, army, kitchen, photos, MISC. The word army took up an entire box, as if 21 years could be stored between kitchenware and things not worth naming. On the drafting desk lay a stapled packet. Owen followed me in. That's a list of improvements. I picked it up. He had arranged the work by year: roof, wiring, kitchen, upstairs bath, studio conversion, porch, gutters, landscaping. Some entries included receipts. Others listed estimated labor in round numbers. 72 hours to tile the upstairs bathroom? I asked. You remember that floor. I remember you removing the first tile because it was crooked, which added time. Your mistake added equity? My labor has value even when the work is difficult. Difficult and wrong aren't the same. Seth leaned into the doorway. I'm going to secure the toilet before this becomes violent. Owen ignored him. I'm asking for credit, Mara, not charity. I said I'd review it. By what standard? A fair one. Yours. Do you have another? He looked at the packet in my hand. Give me 90 days. No. 60. No. Lorraine called you. I'm aware. And you have 29 days. My phone vibrated in my pocket. The number was from Louisville. I answered. This is Mara Vance. A woman introduced herself from Mid-South Distribution. We had exchanged emails about an operations position before I left Romania. She wanted to confirm an interview for Thursday morning. Yes, I said. I'll be available. Owen's expression changed at the word Louisville. When I hung up, he folded his arms. You're interviewing out of state for a regional job based in Kentucky. Maybe. You're throwing me out of a house you're going to sell. I haven't decided to sell. You haven't decided to stay. That doesn't make the decision yours. It proves my point. This is a location to you. It's my life. I set the improvement list on the desk. Then you should have treated it like something you could lose. His face went still. Seth reappeared behind him. Tables should be ready to flip. Owen did not move. Seth and I loosened the clamps, checked the joint, and turned the table with careful hands. The repaired leg held. We set it upright in the center of the studio. Under the boxes, its dark, scarred surface looked like the only honest thing in the room. Owen picked up the box labeled Photos. I didn't throw everything away, he said. The sentence stopped me. Everything? He put the box on the table and opened the flaps. Framed pictures lay wrapped in newspaper. My father beside his truck. Seth and me at Lorraine's retirement dinner. Owen and me on the unfinished staircase. Dust in our hair, laughing at whoever held the camera. I lifted the first stack. Where are my letters? I asked. Owen looked toward the open door. The ones I mailed you, I said. Where are they? His silence told me before he did. I got rid of them. The box in my hands became heavier. How? Owen glanced at Seth, as if my brother's presence made the question unfair. How did you get rid of them? I repeated. I threw them away. In the trash? Recycling. Seth closed his eyes. Jesus, Owen, they were paper. They were 21 years of my life. They were letters to me. That makes it better? No. Owen rubbed his thumb across the edge of the box. It makes it true. I set the photographs down one at a time because dropping them would have given him something visible to blame. When? I asked. After you agreed to the divorce. You mean after I signed the papers? Same thing. No, it isn't. You said there was nothing left to discuss. We'd been discussing it for 6 months. Exactly. 6 months of you calling on a schedule, asking whether I'd sent the insurance forms, then saying you had to go. I was working. You were always working. So were you. His jaw moved. Not here. Seth stepped between us without making it obvious. He picked up the packet of improvements and squared its edges against the table. Maybe we all take 10 minutes, he said. I ignored him. Why the letters? Owen stared at the old photograph of us on the staircase. Because I kept reading them. That answer unsettled me more than the trash. Why? I don't know. You know? He looked at me then. His anger had drained, leaving something worse. Everyone ended the same way, he said. Soon. I'll be home soon. We'll take that trip soon. We'll finish the bedroom soon. We'll sit on the porch when this is over. Then you'd come back and spend half your leave dealing with army paperwork or your father's appointments or somebody else's emergency. My father was dying, not for all 12 years. Seth said, "Owen." "No," she asked. He took the picture from the box and held it by one corner. We were younger in it. Owen still had dark hair. I wore a red bandana to keep sawdust off my face, which had accomplished nothing. "I read those letters after she signed," he said. "All that soon, page after page of it. I felt stupid for keeping them, so you made sure I couldn't. They were mine, Mara. It was legally true. Probably. That made me hate him more." I took the photograph from his hand. "Get out." His shoulders rose. "I'm trying to explain." "You did. Mara, get out of the studio." He looked at Seth. My brother pointed toward the door. I'd go. Owen walked out. Halfway across the yard, he kicked one of the cardboard boxes he had left on the grass, not hard enough to damage it, just hard enough to make sure somebody saw. Seth watched through the window. That was mature. I shut the curtains. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. I unwrapped photographs and arranged them by size. My father with his truck, Lorraine at the hospital retirement dinner, Seth holding up a catfish with the solemn expression of a man displaying military intelligence, Owen asleep in a lawn chair, his mouth open. I made 3 stacks, frames intact, frames damaged, no frames. "You don't have to do that right now," Seth said. "Yes, I do." "Why?" "Because broken glass should be separated before it cuts somebody. There's no broken glass. Then this stack will go quickly." He sat on the sofa. I remember one of the letters. My hand stopped. Owen read part of it at Dad's birthday dinner. The one where you described a goat getting into your supply tent. That was Afghanistan. You called it an enemy infiltrator. It ate a corporal's hat. Dad laughed so hard he had to take his inhaler. I remembered writing it in a plywood office during a sandstorm. I had made the goat sound smarter than our commanding officer and then crossed out the officer's name in case mail was inspected. "That wasn't one of the important ones," I said. "It was to Dad." I picked up the next photograph. "I don't need witnesses that I wrote letters. I didn't say you did. Then why tell me? Because I thought you might want one thing back. I can't get it back." "No." But I remember it. I pressed both palms against the table. The repaired leg held steady. "Please go secure your toilet," I said. Seth stood. He paused beside me, close enough to hug if either of us knew how to begin. Instead, he took the damaged frames and carried them outside. Rain started just after 3. It came hard and sudden, drumming on the studio roof. I brought in the remaining boxes while Owen moved tools and lumber deeper into the garage. Neither of us offered to help the other. The house lost power for 12 seconds, long enough for the air conditioner to stop and the security system to chirp. The studio lights came back by themselves. From the kitchen window, Owen watched me check the breaker panel. I watched him close the blinds. Inside the box marked Army, I found 2 pairs of old boots, promotion orders, a stack of evaluation reports, unit patches, coins, photographs, and the little sewing kit Beverly had given me after my second deployment. The kit still contained olive thread, 3 safety pins, and a needle wrapped in wax paper. I held it for a while. Beverly had known the house was mine. She had sat at the new table and watched Owen tell me I had no home. She had also mailed that sewing kit with a note telling me not to trust military-issue buttons. People rarely cooperated by becoming one thing. My phone buzzed with a message from Paige. "I'm coming tomorrow for clothes and work equipment. Is noon okay?" She did not need my permission. The fact that she asked made me think she understood that now. I typed, "Fine." Then I added, "Aunt Lorraine invited me to lunch. Owen will be here." The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then returned. I'd rather not be alone with him. I stared at the sentence. "Do you want me here?" "Yes." I deleted my first answer, which was going to be a time and a list of conditions. "I'll be here." At 12:30 the next day, I sat at Lorraine's kitchen table eating a tomato sandwich and watching her complete a crossword puzzle in blue ink. "You're pressing too hard," I said. "I'm confident. You put a T where there should be an S. I'm reconsidering. You're scraping through the paper." She glared at me and turned the page slightly away. We had discussed the weather, the quality of tomatoes, Seth's truck, and a neighbor's ongoing war with a raccoon. No one had mentioned Owen for 22 minutes. I found the silence exhausting. Lorraine tapped the crossword clue. 7 letters. To come back to a former place. Return. That's 6. Revisit. 7. You're welcome. She wrote it in. "You don't have to sound surprised." I wasn't. "You always sound surprised when I know something. You scheduled surgeries, not crossword tournaments. Surgeons use words, mostly golf words." She smiled, then noticed the time on the microwave. "I thought you had to leave at 1. I told Paige I'd be at the house." Lorraine set down her pen. "How is she?" "I don't know. You drank together. That wasn't friendship, that was shared confusion. Most friendships start there." I folded my napkin. "She didn't know the house was mine, I figured. You could call her." What would I say? The truth. Lorraine looked toward the window. "I don't know which part is mine to tell." "That's convenient." "Yes," she said. "It has been." I waited for a defense. None came. She reached for my plate. "Tomorrow I'm making soup. Is that another invitation?" "No. I'm informing you what I'll be eating. Alone? If necessary." I took the plate from her and carried it to the sink. "I can come at 1. 12:30. You said 1. I changed my mind. I washed the plate before she could object. When I reached for the dish towel, she slapped my hand away. "You were invited to eat," she said, "not fix the kitchen. It was 1 plate. Go." I arrived at the house at 12:58. Paige's SUV was parked behind Owen's truck. The front door stood open. A row of empty plastic bins lined the foyer. Voices came from upstairs. "I'm not discussing this with her downstairs," Owen said. "I asked her to be here," Paige replied. "That's worse." I remained in the foyer, debating whether to announce myself. Before I decided, Paige came down carrying a garment bag and a cardboard file box. Her eyes were swollen. The ring was no longer on her finger. "Could you hold the door?" she asked. I did. She carried the items to her SUV and returned for a camera case. Owen followed her down. "You don't have to take everything," he said. "Yes, I do. You said you needed space." I said I needed to think. "How do you think with all your belongings in your car?" "Apparently better than I think with them in someone else's house." He looked at me. "You coached her?" Paige laughed, sharp and unbelieving. She held a door. "You texted her because I didn't want to be alone with you." That stopped him. Paige went upstairs again. I stayed near the door. Owen paced into the dining room and back. "What did you tell her last night?" he asked. "The truth?" "Which truth? That's the problem, isn't it?" He stood close enough that I could see he had not shaved. "You came back determined to blow up my life. I came back expecting to sleep in my bed. Even after the divorce? You knew the date. You keep saying that like everything was supposed to stop." "No. I thought you were supposed to move." Paige returned with another box, this one full of toiletries. The expensive face cream sat on top. She looked at Owen. "I'll come for the lighting equipment tomorrow. I can bring it to you." "No." "Paige, please." She hesitated. For the first time, I saw that leaving him hurt her. She was not marching out on principle. She was dragging herself away from a future she had already furnished in her mind. "I believed you," she said. "That's the part I can't get around." Owen's face crumpled, just for a second. "I was going to make it true," he replied. Paige looked at the pale walls, the brass hooks, and the table he built for a room he did not own. "That isn't the same as telling the truth." She carried the box outside. Owen did not follow. After her SUV pulled away, he went into the dining room and blew out a candle left from the dinner. The wick had not been lit, but he pinched it anyway. "I threw the letters away because they made me feel like a fool," he said. I stood in the foyer. "You kept promising you were coming home," he continued. "I built my whole life around soon. I did come home. He looked at me across the room. "Yeah," he said. 11 weeks too late. 11 weeks too late for what? I asked. Owen turned the unlit candle between his fingers. A thin ring of wax clung to the brass holder, for any of it to matter. "You asked for the divorce." "I know. You sent the papers. I know what I did. Then explain the deadline I missed." He set the candle down too hard. "You didn't even come back when it was finalized. I was in Romania. You had leave. I had 9 days available. You could have used them. To watch a judge approve paperwork we both signed? To show up. You told me not to contest it. I didn't ask you to contest it." The distinction was so Owen that I nearly admired it. "What did you want?" I asked. "A dramatic arrival? Me running into court saying I'd changed my mind? I wanted something that didn't feel like another form you processed. I called you. 7 minutes. You said you were busy. I was sitting in the kitchen. You told me you had a client. I wanted you to ask me not to hang up." My mouth opened, then closed. Owen laughed under his breath. "See? Even now you think that's ridiculous. I think you were 45 years old waiting for me to solve a test you didn't tell me I was taking. I told you for years. You told me I loved the Army more than you. You told me I was cold. You told me I made this house feel like a waiting room. Then you asked me for a divorce. I wanted you to say no. You wanted me to disobey the only clear thing you said." He looked away. I had spent years working with people who buried requests beneath rank, pride, and fear. A lieutenant asking whether the fuel report was final usually meant he had already promised fuel we didn't have. A sergeant saying she was fine often meant she hadn't slept in 2 days. I could read everyone except the man whose socks I folded. Maybe that wasn't true. Maybe I had read him and decided the translation could wait. "I thought agreeing was the last decent thing I could do for you," I said. Owen's face hardened again. "You always think leaving is generous. I let you stay here. Yes, like a tenant, like someone I didn't want to throw into the street. And now? Now you told me I had no home while standing in mine." He flinched, but only slightly. "So this is punishment. This is consequence. That sounds like something printed over a picture of a tank. It sounds like 30 days. He carried the candle into the kitchen and dropped it into a cabinet. I went upstairs. Paige had cleared the bathroom ledge. A clean rectangle marked where the jar of face cream had been. One toothbrush remained in the holder. In the front bedroom, the staged laptop and plant still sat on the desk. I opened the closet. Empty hangers clicked against one another. My father's last bed had stood against the east wall. After the funeral, Owen and I moved it out before the hospice company could send anyone. I had stripped the wallpaper, painted until midnight, slept 3 hours, and gone back to the transition office to resolve a benefits problem. Owen had said I didn't have to keep moving. I told him the paint would dry badly if I stopped halfway. Now the walls were cream again. I closed the door. The video interview with Mid-South Distribution began at 9 Thursday morning. I wore a navy blouse, the only civilian jacket I owned, and black trousers that had survived 11 hours in my duffel. My laptop sat on my father's table in the studio. Behind me, I positioned the camera so the boxes labeled Army and MISC were out of frame. The woman from Louisville was named Denise. She had silver glasses and the efficient friendliness of someone who could reject a person without making them feel mishandled. A regional director joined 5 minutes late. "Master Sergeant Vance," he said. "Mara is fine." He called me Master Sergeant twice more. They asked about budgets, staffing, vendor failures, and whether I could translate military logistics into civilian distribution. I described rerouting temperature-sensitive supplies after a bridge closure without mentioning that half the people involved had been armed and the other half had been vomiting. The director smiled. "Our warehouse supervisors can be resistant to centralized processes. People usually resist processes that ignore what their day actually looks like." Denise leaned closer to the screen. "How do you address that?" I ask where the process fails them. Then I ask what they're doing instead, and if their solution violates policy. I find out whether the policy protects something real or just protects itself. Outside, A power saw started. The sound tore through the studio wall. I muted myself. Through the window, I saw Owen on the back patio cutting the legs from the live edge dining table. Not cutting them off, removing them. The bolts were hidden beneath the apron, and he was using the saw on a trim piece he had glued over the access points. Denise's mouth moved on screen. I unmuted. "I'm sorry. Construction." The director laughed. "Your project?" "Not exactly." The saw stopped. A few seconds later, Owen appeared at the studio window, saw me at the laptop, and froze. He mouthed, "Sorry." I turned back to the interview. The role required 60% travel, sometimes more during peak season. The salary was solid but lower than what I had imagined when recruiters described my experience as invaluable. They wanted someone based near Louisville eventually. Would relocation be an issue? Denise asked. 3 days earlier, I would have said no. "I'm evaluating that," I replied. After we disconnected, I remained in front of the blank screen. 60% travel. Hotels, rental cars, different ceilings every week. A professional life built around leaving before a room learned my shape. Owen knocked on the glass. I opened the door. "I didn't know you were interviewing," he said. "I told you Thursday. You said you had a call. What did you think interview meant?" "You didn't say interview." "I did in the yard." He rubbed sawdust from his forearm. "How did it go?" "Fine." "Fine, good, or fine, Mara? What does that mean?" "You know what it means." I answered their questions. That bad, then. I wanted to resent him for knowing. Instead, I resented myself for being relieved. "You're taking the dining table?" I asked. "I built it. I know. I'm not asking you to pay for it." "I didn't say you couldn't take it." His eyes narrowed, suspicious of an uncomplicated answer. "Where will you put it?" I asked. "Storage, for now." "Dover Road?" "Different unit. The one with your dad's tools is full. When can I get those?" "I'll take you Saturday. Give me the unit number and key. They're mixed with my equipment. I can identify his things. It's a packed unit. We'll have to unload half of it. Saturday, then." He nodded. "Saturday." He turned to leave. "Owen." He looked back. "I'm moving into the front bedroom." "No." The answer came so quickly that it seemed to surprise him, too. "Excuse me? It's my office. It has a bed. It's where I meet clients who don't want to use the studio." Paige removed her things. "The closet is empty. That doesn't make it available. It's a bedroom in my house. I'm still living here. I'm not asking for the master. You said you'd stay in the studio. You said I didn't belong in the house." I said, "I heard exactly what you said." His hands settled on his hips. "So now you need to prove something." "Yes." The honesty stopped him. I folded the pull-out sheets and packed my duffel. Owen watched from the doorway but did not offer to help. When I carried the first box across the yard, Beverly's car pulled into the driveway. She got out holding a rectangular tin covered in painted holly leaves. Her November pecan brittle tin. It was July. She looked at my box, then at Owen beside the dismantled dining table. "I suppose I came at a bad time," she said. "There's been a lot of that," I replied. Owen picked up 2 table legs. "I'm loading this." He walked toward the garage. Beverly held out the tin. I didn't know what else to bring. I took it. Hello would have worked. Her eyes filled immediately. That made me feel cruel, which made me angry. "I'm sorry," she said. "For the brittle? For sitting there?" I shifted the box against my hip. "Which part? When he said you had no home?" The July heat pressed down around us. A cicada screamed from the oak tree. Beverly looked toward Owen, who had disappeared into the garage. "I knew the house was yours," she said. "I knew when you were coming back. He said you'd probably changed your plans, and I let myself believe him because the dinner mattered to him." "What was the dinner?" "He wanted Paige to choose cabinet colors for the studio kitchenette. Dean and I were supposed to act surprised. That's why the ring wasn't an engagement ring." Beverly looked confused. "Never mind." She twisted the tin in her hands, forgetting she had already given it to me. I thought if I challenged him in front of everyone, he'd stop speaking to me, So you let him challenge me. Yes. The word was barely audible. Owen emerged carrying a drill case. Beverly lowered her voice. He has needed so much since you left. Every visit, every repair, every meal. He made me feel useful. I was afraid if I admitted you were coming home, he wouldn't need me anymore. Owen saw us talking and stopped. I had spent 3 days thinking everyone had chosen him because he stayed. It had not occurred to me that some of them needed him to stay broken. I handed Beverly my box. Can you carry this upstairs? She blinked. You want my help? It's heavy. She hugged it to her chest. Which room? The front. Owen started toward us. Mom. Beverly looked at her son, then at the open front door. For once, she did not wait to learn which of us would be angrier. She carried my things inside. Owen waited until Beverly disappeared up the stairs. You don't have to recruit my mother. I asked her to carry a box. You know what you're doing. I'm moving into a bedroom. You put her in the middle. She arrived there. He looked toward the doorway. She was trying to apologize, so I gave her something useful to do. That's how you accept apologies? I'm new at it. Beverly came back down before he could answer. Her face was flushed from the stairs, though she pretended it wasn't. What else? She asked me. Owen said, Mom, you can go home. She stopped beside the bottom step. I just got here. This isn't your problem. That has never prevented you from giving me one. He stared at her. Beverly reached for the box at my feet. Is this one heavy? It says books, I told her. I can read. It's heavy. I raised 2 sons. That doesn't improve bone density. She gave me the same look she used when I once refused a second helping of pie. I'll take half. We opened the box and divided the books into the empty plastic bins Paige had left in the foyer. Owen remained near the dining room, holding his drill case like he'd forgotten where it went. Beverly made 3 trips upstairs. I made 4. By the 5th, Owen silently picked up the last bin and carried it to the front bedroom. He set it beside the desk. The room looked smaller with my things in it. My duffel rested at the foot of the bed. The holly tin sat on the windowsill. Beverly had removed the decorative plant and placed it in the hall. You didn't have to move that, Owen said. It was plastic, she replied. It was part of the room. It was pretending. Beverly brushed dust from the desk, though there wasn't any. I opened the closet and hung my civilian jacket beside my uniforms. 5 sets of camouflage took up less space than Paige's empty hangers. Owen watched me. How long are you planning to use this room? I slid the hangers apart. I live here. That isn't an answer. It's the answer you keep rejecting. Beverly turned toward him. She owns the house, Owen. He laughed once. Thank you, Mom. That was worth waiting 3 days to hear. I should have said it at dinner. You shouldn't have been at that dinner. You invited me. I invited you to support me. I thought those were the same thing. The room went quiet. Owen put the bin down so carefully that the plastic barely touched the floor. You support everybody else, he said to her. Dean makes a mess. You fix it. Mara disappears. You send care packages. I ask you to sit through one dinner. You asked me to sit there while you lied. I didn't lie to you. No, you made me help you lie to Paige. His face reddened. You barely know Paige. I knew enough to feel sorry for her. Great. And Mara. Wonderful. Everybody feels sorry for Mara. She finally got the homecoming she wanted. I stepped between him and the door. Don't use me to fight with her. This is about you. It was about you before I arrived. He looked at his mother. Something passed between them that belonged to years I had missed and years before I knew either of them. Beverly's voice softened. You can be hurt without making your hurt the only truth in the room. Owen's grip tightened on the drill case. Did you rehearse that with her? He asked. Beverly flinched. I opened the door wider. Go load your table. His eyes met mine. For a moment, I thought he would refuse simply because I had told him to. Then he left. Beverly sat on the edge of the bed. I made that worse, she said. It was already bad. I should talk to him. Not now. You don't know how he gets when he thinks everyone's against him. I was married to him." She picked at a loose thread on the comforter. "After the divorce became final, he didn't leave the house for 4 days. I called. He didn't answer. He told me he had clients. He lied. I sat in the desk chair. He wanted me to know he was hurting without letting me see it. He gets that from his father. I thought he got it from me." Beverly smiled sadly. "You two had plenty in common." She opened the holly tin. The brittle had melted slightly in the heat and fused into one glossy sheet. "It broke in the car," she said. "It's supposed to be broken." "Not like this." She tried to separate a corner. The whole sheet lifted. I took it from her and struck it against the edge of the desk. It split into 5 uneven pieces. "There," I said. Beverly selected the smallest. "You always were practical." My hand stopped over the tin. She noticed. "Was that wrong?" "No." "Yes, it was. It depends who says it. We ate brittle in the room where my father died and did not mention him. That night I slept in the house. The mattress was too soft. The air vent clicked every time the compressor started. At 1:10, Owen walked down the hallway, paused outside my door, and continued to the kitchen. I heard water run, a cabinet close, then the low hum of the refrigerator. I got out of bed at 1:32. He was sitting at the kitchen island eating pecan brittle from the holly tin. "That was upstairs," I said. "You left it on the counter." "No, I didn't. Mom did." I poured a glass of water. He broke off another piece. "You're really taking Dad's tools Saturday? You called him Dad." "He told me to." I leaned against the sink. "Yes, I'm taking them." "All of them?" "The ones that were his." He gave me the socket set. "Then keep the socket set. And the router. I don't remember that, because you weren't here." There was no accusation in his voice. That made it worse. "Keep the router," I said. He chewed slowly. "You don't even know what it looks like. I know what a router looks like. Dad's was blue. It was black. That was his old one." I drank my water. "Fine. I don't know what his router looks like." Owen nodded, not triumphant. "Just tired. We'll sort it Saturday," he said. At 8 Saturday morning, he backed his truck to the studio. I carried out 2 empty bins and a roll of moving blankets. "You're bringing blankets?" he asked. "Tools shift. They're in cases. Cases shift." He put the truck in park. "Do you want to drive?" "No, I can tell." The storage facility off Dover Road sat behind a tire shop and a boarded-up buffet restaurant. Rows of orange doors reflected the heat. Owen entered a code at the gate, drove to the last building, and unlocked a unit near the end. When the door rolled up, a wall of our life appeared. The dark foyer curtains were folded over a patio chair. My father's radio sat on a box of Christmas decorations. The brass coat hooks had been wrapped in one of my old bath towels. Behind them were contractor saws, tile cutters, ladders, paint sprayers, and stacks of sample cabinets. "You stored the hooks?" I asked. "They were good brass. You said they didn't fit the design." "They didn't, but you kept them. I keep hardware. You threw away letters, but kept hooks." Owen lifted a toolbox from the stack. "I told you why." "I know." We worked forward without speaking. The unit trapped heat beneath its metal ceiling. Sweat ran down my back before we reached the second row of boxes. My father's wooden tool chest stood behind a portable cement mixer. I recognized it immediately. He had built it from oak scraps and burned his initials into the lid with a soldering iron. RV, crooked and too deep. I touched the letters. Owen watched me. "That chest weighs about 80 pounds. 93. You weighed it?" He tried to ship it to me once. "Why?" He thought army mechanics would appreciate real tools. Owen laughed. "That sounds like him." We lifted it together. The chest caught on the cement mixer. Owen shifted his grip and the corner dropped against his hand. He cursed and jerked back. Blood welled across his thumb. "Let me see." "It's fine." "Let me see." He held out his hand automatically. The cut was shallow but dirty. I took a small first aid pouch from my backpack. "You brought medical supplies to a storage unit?" he asked. "I brought bandages." "You brought gloves. Blood is blood. I'm your ex-husband. Still blood. I cleaned the cut. He hissed when the antiseptic touched it. You used to blow on cuts, he said. You used to complain that I treated you like a child. You could blow on it in an adult way. I looked up. He smiled. I almost did too. Instead, I wrapped his thumb and secured the bandage. Keep it dry. Yes, Master Sergeant. Don't. His smile vanished. Sorry. We sat on the edge of the unit with the tool chest between us. Traffic moved on Dover Road beyond the fence. I used the studio income to keep my business going, he said. I assumed. Some of it paid utilities. From your business account? Sometimes. Put it on the list. You'll count the rent against it. Yes. Of course. You earned money from my property. I maintained the property. So document both. He shook his head. This is exactly what Seth meant. Fair doesn't stop being fair because you dislike arithmetic. You think if the numbers balance, nobody owes anybody. No. I think numbers are the part we can settle. And the rest? I looked at my father's initials burned into the wood. The rest is why you need to leave. We loaded the tool chest, radio, curtains, hooks, and 3 boxes of hand tools. Owen kept the blue router and socket set. I did not ask for proof that my father had given them to him. Back at the house, we carried the chest into the studio and set it beneath the window. The room now held my father's table, his tools, my photographs, and boxes that still needed unpacking. The matching pillows had been shoved into a corner. Owen leaned against the doorframe, his bandaged thumb hooked into his pocket. You're changing it back, he said. No. The curtains. The hooks. I'm putting back things that belong here. Same difference, it isn't. He looked toward the house where the live edge table had left a long, empty space in the dining room. If you take the Louisville job, what happens to all this? I don't know. You'll travel. The house will sit empty. Maybe. So why put us through this? Because I get to decide what happens next. That's it? I looked around the studio. My father's crooked initials, the ugly dark curtains, the table that leaned until 3 people repaired it. No, I said, but it's where I start. Start what? Owen asked. Being here. He looked at the tool chest, then at me. You think putting up old curtains makes you present? I think standing in this room is a measurable improvement. That's a joke? Maybe. He waited for more. When none came, he pushed away from the doorframe. Paige is coming for the lights at 2. What lights? Her photography equipment. I thought she said tomorrow. It is tomorrow. I checked my phone. He was right. Retirement had removed the rails from my calendar. Days no longer arrived labeled by briefings, duty rosters, or movement windows. They just showed up and expected me to know what they were for. Owen noticed my confusion. You okay? Yes. What day did you think it was? Saturday. It's Sunday. I knew that. You just checked. I was confirming. That it's Sunday? Go away, Owen. He left with a faint smile which irritated me for the next hour. Paige arrived at 2:08 with a rolling equipment case and no makeup. She parked near the studio instead of the house. Owen met her in the driveway. I stayed inside with the door open, cleaning my father's tools. I had lined the wrenches by size on an old towel. Half were rusted, and the smallest socket was missing from every set. My father used to accuse sockets of leaving voluntarily. Paige and Owen carried 2 light stands from the garage. They spoke quietly. Then they went upstairs and came back with a black camera bag. At her SUV, Paige held something out, the gold ring. Owen did not take it. I looked down at the wrench in my hand, but the polished metal reflected their movement in a distorted curve. Keep it, he said. I don't want it. It wasn't an engagement ring, remember? That's why I don't want it. He took the ring then. Paige put both hands into her jacket pockets, though the afternoon was warm. I'm not leaving because Mara owns the house, she said. I'm leaving because you built our plans inside a fact you kept changing. I was going to buy it. You hoped she'd sell it. I had reason to believe she would. You let me choose paint for a building you were renting without permission. I wasn't renting it. That is not the part to argue." He looked toward the studio. I lowered my eyes before he could catch me watching. Paige said something too quiet to hear. Owen answered sharply. Then she walked to my door. "I need the softbox behind your desk." I moved aside. She folded the black fabric frame and slipped it into a case. "I'm sorry," she said. "You didn't put it there. I helped him change the room. It's a room." She looked at my father's table, the dark curtains waiting to be hung, and the plastic plant on its side beside the sofa. "Rooms matter," she said. "Yes." She zipped the case but did not lift it. "Please don't turn this into proof that you were right about me. I wasn't right about you. I didn't know you. You still don't." "No." That seemed to satisfy her more than forgiveness would have. She carried the case outside. Owen stood beside her SUV with the ring closed in his fist. Paige hugged him. He held himself stiff for half a second, then wrapped both arms around her. His face pressed into her hair. I closed the studio door. An hour later, something crashed inside the house. I found Owen in the foyer surrounded by broken plaster. The framed photograph of the house had been taken down. So had the floating walnut shelf beneath it. 3 metal brackets still projected from the wall, and a strip of deep green paint showed where the shelf had covered it. Owen held a pry bar. "What happened?" "The anchor tore out." "Because you pulled sideways. It was stuck. Most objects are stuck when screwed to walls. I'm taking the shelf. I can see that." He waited for me to object. "Take it," I said. His expression darkened. "I made it. I know. For this house." "I know that too. So you don't care. Would you prefer I beg for it?" "I'd prefer some indication that what I built mattered." I looked at the torn plaster, the green stripe, and the shelf leaning against the stairs. "It mattered enough that you're taking it. That's not the same." "No, it isn't." He tossed the pry bar into his toolbox. "The dining room lights are mine too." "Are they hardwired?" "I bought them." "Are they hardwired?" "Yes. Leave them." "I have the receipt." "Leave anything attached to the house until we settle the list." He laughed. "There's that word again." "What word?" "Settle. Like we're 2 companies dissolving a contract. We tried being 2 people dissolving a marriage. You threw my letters in recycling." His face closed. I went to the closet for a broom. By Wednesday, the house had developed gaps. The live edge table was gone. So were 6 dining chairs, 2 lamps, the walnut shelf, 3 framed project photographs, and the pale pottery from the foyer. Owen packed carefully when he was calm and aggressively when he wasn't. Every box had a neat label. Every removed object left dust outlines or screw holes behind. He had not touched the pendant lights. I hung the old brass coat hooks over the strip of green paint. The screws did not match the new holes, so Seth came after work with anchors and a cordless drill. "You sure about this height?" he asked. "It's where they were. You measured?" "I can see the old marks. That means you don't need me. You're holding the drill. You own a drill. I invited you." He looked at me. "What?" I asked. "Nothing. Say it." "You invited me." "I just said that." "Yeah." He drove in the first screw with a grin he tried to hide. Afterward, we ate pizza on the kitchen floor because there was no dining table. Owen came in through the garage, saw us, and stopped. "There's a kitchen island," he said. "Seth said sitting on the floor improves digestion. I said it improves posture. You're both wrong." Owen took a slice from the box anyway. He leaned against the counter while Seth told a long story about a forklift operator at his new job who insisted every mechanical failure could be fixed with cooking spray. For 9 minutes, we were almost a family. Then Owen noticed the brass hooks. "You put those back." "Yes," I said. "They don't work with the wall color. I'm changing the wall color. To green? Maybe." He set his pizza down. "So all the work we did doesn't count." "You painted one wall. I redesigned the whole entry. You removed everything that belonged to us and hung a photograph of the building. It looked clean. It looked available." Seth stopped chewing. Owen stared at me. You've been waiting to say that. I just understood it. He threw his half-eaten slice into the trash and went upstairs. Seth watched him leave. Should I go? No. Do you want me to go? No. Are those the same answer? I looked at him. Stay and finish eating. He picked up another slice. The email from Mid-South arrived while we were gathering the paper plates. Denise thanked me for the interview and offered the regional operations position, contingent on relocation within 6 months. The salary was exactly what she had described. Travel expectations remained 60%, increasing during facility transitions. I read the message twice. Seth looked over my shoulder. That's good, right? It's an offer, which is generally better than a rejection. It's based in Louisville. You like Louisville? I've driven through it. They have horses. I don't need horses. Everybody needs one horse. You live in an apartment. Exactly why I don't have mine yet. I closed the email. When do you have to answer? He asked. Friday. You gonna take it? I don't know. Owen stood at the top of the stairs. I hadn't heard him come out of the bedroom. You got the job? He asked. I got an offer. His first reaction was pride. I saw it before he hid it. Of course you did, he said. For years, those 4 words had warmed me. Owen used them when I was promoted. When I completed a course everyone said was designed to wash people out. When I managed my father's insurance appeal from Poland. Of course you did. To him, my competence had once been as reliable as sunrise. Then he looked at the hooks, the pizza box, and Seth standing beside me. So you're moving to Kentucky. I haven't accepted, but you will. You don't know that. It's a regional director job, operations, whatever. It's important. It's a job. You don't turn down important. Seth closed the pizza box. I should probably take this. Leave it, I said. I can leave the box and still remove myself. He carried the plates to the trash and escaped through the back door. Owen came downstairs. You said you wanted a civilian career, he said. I do. You spent a year talking to recruiters. I remember. You said you'd go where the right job was. I said a lot of things when home was theoretical. He looked around the half-empty room. And this changed your mind? I didn't say that. You're hanging hooks. I'm considering my options. You don't consider. You calculate. I folded my arms, caught myself, and unfolded them. The job is 60% travel. You've done more. Exactly. He studied me. You're turning it down because of the house. I haven't decided. If you reject the job, you'll blame me. Why would I blame you? Because you came back and found out your life didn't fit anymore. The sentence hurt because it named something I had been refusing to measure. I can find another job, I said. Can you find another career? Yes. He nodded, but his expression said he didn't believe me. Neither did I. The following afternoon, Dean arrived with an enclosed trailer. He and Owen carried out the dismantled dining table, the pale rugs and boxes of contractor equipment. I stood in the foyer checking items against the list Owen had given me. Dean lowered one end of the table into the trailer. You really writing down chairs? I'm recording what leaves. They're his. I didn't stop them. You wrote them down. Observation isn't obstruction. God, you two even argue in the same language now. Owen emerged with a boxed pendant light. Put that back, I said. It isn't installed. I checked the dining room. One of the 3 fixtures hung dark over the empty floor. The matching boxed spare had been stored in the garage. Fine, I said. Take the spare. Dean wiped his forehead. How much are you offering him? I'm reviewing the list. You've reviewed missile systems faster. I didn't review missile systems. Whatever you reviewed. Owen placed the light in the trailer. She's going to discount everything. I'm separating materials from labor already compensated through the business or joint account. Dean looked at his brother. You charge the business for work here? I paid employees for 2 projects. And build materials? Some. Dean frowned. Then she's right. You can't count those twice. Owen's face sharpened. Whose side are you on? I'm lifting your furniture in 90-degree heat. That's my side. You told her I deserved compensation. You do. Accurate compensation. I watched the brothers glare at each other. Owen climbed into the trailer and dragged a moving blanket over the table. This family loves accuracy now, he said. Where was all this honesty when she was gone? Dean's mouth tightened. Nobody answered. That evening, I found the porch rail loose. Owen had removed 2 custom brackets from beneath it. The railing still stood, but it shifted when I pressed my hand against the top. He came out carrying a box of cabinet hardware. Did you take the brackets? I forged them. They're supporting the rail. The rail stood before. It wobbled before. I'll put in standard brackets. When? When I have time. You're not leaving it unsafe. He dropped the box onto the porch. You said I could take what's mine. I said you could take the shelf. So the shelf matters. But my metalwork doesn't. The shelf doesn't keep anyone from falling. I made those brackets for this house, then leave them with the house. And what do I leave with? The question came out louder than he intended. He looked at the empty dining room through the window. I looked at the ring of pale dust where his table had stood. You take your furniture, your tools, your records, your clothes, and fair payment for the work, I said. That's inventory. It's what I can name. What about 12 years? I can't pack those for you. No, he said. You already packed yours into 6 boxes. He picked up the cabinet hardware and went inside. I tightened the loose porch rail with a temporary screw from my father's chest. It wasn't the right repair, but it held. On the kitchen counter, my laptop remained open to the Mid-South offer. I clicked reply. Thank you, I typed. I'm grateful for the opportunity. Then I stopped. Through the window, I could see Owen carrying another box toward Dean's trailer, taking his proof with him one piece at a time. I deleted the sentence. I closed the laptop. For once, I let a decision remain unfinished. I declined Mid-South at 8:12 Friday morning. Denise called 9 minutes later. Did we lose you over salary? She asked. No. Relocation? Partly. Travel? Mostly. She paused. You've traveled your entire career. That's what made the percentage clear. We could revisit it after the first year. What would it be during the first year? 60 to 70 realistically. I looked through the front bedroom window. Owen was loading cabinet samples into his truck. One of the brass hooks held my gray field jacket. The other 3 were empty. I appreciate the offer, I said. It's not the right position. We were impressed with you. Thank you. You don't sound happy about it. I'm not happy. I'm certain. Denise laughed softly. Those don't always travel together. No, ma'am. If something changes, call me. Nothing had changed yet. That was the costly part. I closed the laptop and sat at the desk until the screen went dark. For 21 years, every promotion had narrowed my choices while making the remaining path clearer. Retirement had handed me a whole country and no direction. Owen knocked on the open door. You turned it down, he said. I turned in the chair. Were you listening? I was in the hallway. You could have continued through it. He leaned against the frame. Why? Wrong job. You said the job was good. The travel wasn't. You like travel. I tolerate travel. You used to get restless after 2 weeks at home. I had 12 days of leave. By day 10, I was thinking about everything I hadn't done. You reorganized the pantry at 3 in the morning. You put canned tomatoes with breakfast food. They go in eggs. They go under vegetables. They're fruit. This conversation confirms the divorce was necessary. His mouth twitched. Then he looked past me at the bed. Did you turn it down because of the house? I turned it down because I don't want another job that expects me to be grateful for never unpacking. He nodded slowly. I'm sorry, he said. For what? That they didn't offer you something better. The kindness arrived without permission. I looked at the laptop because it was easier than looking at him. Thank you. He tapped the doorframe twice and went downstairs. The house continued coming apart. Owen replaced the custom porch brackets with plain galvanized ones. They were ugly but secure. He removed his bedroom television, 2 bookcases, the patio furniture, and every pan he claimed to have purchased before our marriage. I let him take the cast iron skillet, even though it had been a wedding gift, because no amount of seasoning was worth the argument. He left the pendant lights. I spent evenings at my father's table reviewing receipts. Some were faded into pale blue ghosts. Some listed materials for client jobs mixed with materials for the house. Owen had documented labor carefully during years when his business claimed the work, then estimated generously during years when nobody tracked it. I made calls to 2 contractors I trusted through my father. I asked what they would have charged for the work at the time it was done. I did not ask what Owen deserved. That question changed depending on who had eaten dinner with him. I added materials he had paid from personal funds. I added labor that had not been compensated. I subtracted studio income after expenses and charges already paid from our joint account. Then I added 12% because estimates should not become punishment simply because records were imperfect. The number still frightened me. It represented most of what I had saved for the gap between military pay and civilian work. Paying it would leave me with the house, my retirement income, and less freedom to make mistakes. I printed the calculation and put a check beneath it. Owen found both on my father's table. He did not touch the check. $76,400, he said. Yes. You think that covers 12 years? It covers documented materials, uncompensated labor, and a generous allowance for work without receipts. Generous. I checked market rates. With who? 2 contractors. Competitors. One is retired, so he's out of date. I used the rates from the years you performed the work. You deducted studio rent. Yes. That money paid bills. I credited the portion that paid house utilities. You deducted payroll for the kitchen. Your business claimed it as an expense. That doesn't mean I was paid. It means the employees were. I worked beside them, and I credited those hours. He flipped to the last page. You put a value on the downstairs bathroom tile, but not the upstairs. The upstairs tile came from the joint account. I installed it. After removing it twice. Once. The first section was crooked, because the floor wasn't square. You knew the floor wasn't square before you started. He dropped the packet on the table. This is insulting. It's accurate. No, it's tidy. Different thing. What number isn't insulting? Half the increase in the house's value. No. Why? Because the land appreciated, the neighborhood appreciated, the market changed. You didn't install any of those. I made it possible for the house to sell at that value. I'm not selling it. You might. If I do, it's still not half yours. He looked at the check again. I could use this as a down payment, he said. That's the idea. On a house half the size, then buy a house half the size. I have a life here. You built a life inside something you knew belonged to someone else. His eyes met mine. So did you. The studio went very still. I thought of my father's tools, Owen's shelves, Beverly's brittle, Paige's lights, Seth's repair clamp, all of us leaving objects in rooms and calling that presence. My life wasn't built inside the house, I said. That's my point. He slid the check toward me. 60 days and 120,000. 30 days and 76.4. I can't be out by then. You've moved half your things. I don't have a place. You have a storage unit. I'm not sleeping in it. Dean offered his guest room. I'm 45 years old, so rent an apartment. My income varies. Landlords want records. You have business returns. They don't show what I actually make. That sounds like a different planning problem. His palm struck the table. Not hard. Enough. Stop talking to me like I'm one of your soldiers. Then stop asking me to solve something you had 14 months to handle. He stared at the check for a long time. I want the family here Sunday, he said. For what? To discuss it. This isn't a family vote. They were part of this house. So were the neighbors. We're not setting up bleachers. I want people in the room who know what I contributed. I know what you contributed. You know what fits your spreadsheet. He left the check behind. At 6, Sunday evening, I walked into the kitchen and found Beverly, Dean, Lorraine, and Seth arranged around the island. Lorraine had brought a casserole. Dean had brought beer. Beverly held a bag of rolls against her chest like protective equipment. Owen stood by the sink. The first dinner had included candles and strangers. This one had aluminum foil and every person who knew exactly whose house they were in. "There's nowhere to sit," Lorraine said. "We noticed," Dean replied. Owen's live edge table was gone. My father's table remained in the studio. Seth looked at me. "Want me to get it?" I should have said no. Instead, I followed him outside. We each took an end. Owen appeared behind us without being asked and supported the repaired corner. The three of us carried the table into the dining room and set it where his had stood. Lorraine ran her hand over the gouge in the center. "Your father put a transmission on this table." "We know," Seth and I said together. Beverly placed the rolls beside the scar. Nobody had planned to eat, but Lorraine served the casserole because it existed. We used mismatched plates left behind after Owen packed his set. Dean passed out beer. Beverly poured me sweet tea without asking. For several minutes, the only conflict involved whether the casserole contained mushrooms. Then Owen placed my calculation in the middle of the table. "Mara offered $76,000, he said. Beverly inhaled sharply. Dean leaned over the pages. "That's more than you told me. I told you the base amount." "What's the base amount?" 62. Lorraine looked at me. "You added 14,000? Allowances for undocumented labor and disputed materials." Seth read the last page. "She credited the porch." "Of course she credited the porch," Lorraine said. "It's a beautiful porch." "The column is rotten," I replied. "That column was rotten before." He painted it, then deduct the paint. "This is why you don't invite family to negotiations," Dean said. Owen pulled out a chair. "I'm asking for 120 in 60 days. Beverly looked at him. "You told me 90? I adjusted. "After she offered 76? It's not enough to replace what I'm losing." Lorraine folded her napkin. "You're not losing a house you owned. I'm losing my home." "And she came back to what?" Seth asked. Owen's face tightened. "You were on my side last week. I said you should be paid. I'm asking to be paid. You're asking to be bought out of ownership you didn't have." Dean pushed the packet away. 76 is fair. You haven't checked the numbers. I don't need to. You told me your own estimate was 80 before Mara came home." Everyone turned toward Owen. He glared at his brother. "That was before I reviewed appreciation." "You don't get appreciation," Dean said. "You said that yourself." "When?" "When you helped me renovate my place. You told Carla labor doesn't become equity unless it's agreed beforehand." Owen's mouth opened, then closed. Beverly stared at her son with open disappointment. Lorraine reached for more casserole. I felt no victory, only fatigue. "Owen," I said, "the offer stands." He looked around the table and realized the family he had assembled was not becoming a jury. "You all think this is about money," he said. "You made it about money," Dean replied. "No, she did. She came home with a deadline and a number for everything." I put down my fork. "You want me to say you were here and I wasn't," I said. "Fine, you were here. You sat with my father, you drove Lorraine, you helped Seth. You gave Beverly reasons to feel needed. You repaired this house while I sent money and instructions from places none of you could picture. Your life here was real." Owen's anger flickered, uncertain. "So was mine," I continued. "I don't have to erase myself to prove you mattered. Nobody moved." The refrigerator compressor clicked on behind us. Owen looked at the check beneath the packet. "I won't be out by the deadline," he said. There were 11 days left. I could have threatened lawyers, deputies, court orders. The words lined up neatly in my head. Instead, I said, "Then you'll spend 11 days deciding what kind of man leaves this house." He pushed back from my father's table. His chair scraped across the floor, loud enough to make everyone flinch. Beverly stood. "Owen." He kept walking. She followed him into the foyer, but Dean caught her wrist before she reached the stairs. "Let him go," he said. "He thinks we chose her. We chose math. That won't feel different to him." Lorraine covered the casserole with foil. "Then he can feel bad and survive it." Beverly looked toward the ceiling. A door closed upstairs. "You don't understand him," she said. Lorraine snapped the foil hard over the edge of the dish. That sentence has excused more foolish men than whiskey. Seth stared into his beer. I gathered the plates. Nobody stopped me this time. Dean brought 2 to the sink. For what it's worth, I didn't know he was asking that much. You don't have to explain. I do if I helped make you think everybody agreed with him. You thought he deserved something. He does. I offered something. I saw. He glanced back at the table. 76,000 is a lot of something. It's most of my transition savings. His eyebrows lifted. Don't tell Owen, I said. Why not? Because I don't want the cost to become part of the price. Dean nodded slowly. That sounded like a column. Probably. It also made sense. In the foyer, Beverly had stopped trying to follow her son. Lorraine buttoned her purse. Seth carried the casserole because Lorraine claimed the foil was unreliable. One by one, they hugged me. Dean's was quick and sideways. Lorraine's included an instruction to arrive at 12:30 Tuesday. Beverly held on longest. He'll leave, she whispered. You don't know that. No. She pulled back. But I think he wants to be the man who does. After they drove away, I returned to the dining room. The improvement packet remained on the table. The check was gone. I heard Owen moving upstairs. Not packing, pacing. At 10:30, an envelope slid beneath my bedroom door. Inside was the check, folded once down the middle. On the blank back, Owen had written, "Not yet." I placed it in the desk drawer. The next morning, every cabinet door in the kitchen stood open. Owen was sorting plates into boxes on the floor. Blue tape marked take, leave, and argue. I picked up a chipped yellow bowl and held it over leave. Argue, he said. It was Dad's. Your dad gave it to us. He brought potato salad in it, and then said we could keep it. He said that about every container, because he didn't want to wash them. I put the bowl into argue. Owen handed me a coffee. Blue mug. Black. 1 spoon stronger. Dean found me a place, he said. I waited. Duplex near his shop. Month to month, the kitchen's terrible. You can renovate it. It's a rental. That appears to matter now. He gave me a look. The landlord wants first, last, and a deposit. Okay, I need part of the money before I move. The offer comes with a written acknowledgement that it settles improvements, so I sign away any future claim. Yes. You had that ready? I drafted it. Of course you did. You asked for money, I asked to be compensated. That's money. He drank from his mug. I want my attorney to review it. Good. That answer annoyed him. I'm serious. So am I. Have someone review it. You thought I'd refuse. I thought you'd call it hostile. It is hostile. It's a paragraph saying the payment resolves what it's for. See? You make it sound harmless. I pointed to the boxes. You labeled one argue. That's honest. I placed 2 cereal bowls into leave. By noon, Owen's attorney had reviewed the acknowledgement and changed 4 words. I accepted 3. The 4th would have turned the payment into an advance rather than a settlement. Owen called that suspicious. I called it a different word. He signed on Monday and deposited the check. Nothing changed for several hours. He remained in the house. My savings account was lower. The dining room still echoed. I had expected the transfer to feel like progress. Instead, it felt like paying for the right to remain where I already stood. Then a delivery truck brought 60 empty moving boxes. Owen carried them upstairs. The days took on a rhythm. He packed before client meetings and after dinner. I applied for civilian jobs within driving distance of Clarksville, most with titles that managed to sound both vague and demanding. Operations coordinator, supply chain analyst, distribution readiness manager. One application asked me to describe my leadership experience in 300 characters. I used 298 and felt ashamed of the remaining 2. At 12:30 Tuesday, I ate soup with Lorraine. On Wednesday, Seth came over and helped patch the foyer wall. Neither of us knew what we were doing, which made him delighted and me increasingly hostile. You have to feather the edges, he said. You learned that word from a video. The video had 6 million views. Popularity is not qualification. It is on the internet. Our patch dried with a hump in the center. Owen examined it that evening. What happened here? Seth is internet certified. Owen put down his box of books, fetched a sanding block, and corrected it without being asked. You're taking off too much, I said. I'm taking off exactly enough. You can see paper. It'll disappear under primer. I stood beside him while plaster dust fell onto the baseboard. You could have left the shelf, I said. You could have let me keep the wall. It wasn't your wall. That was a joke. I know. You didn't laugh. It wasn't good. He sanded a little harder. The upstairs emptied from the corners inward. First the hallway photographs disappeared, then the master closet, then Owen's books, shoes, framed licenses, and the ceramic bulldog Beverly gave him when he opened his business. He left the bed until last. Every evening we argued over ordinary objects. A corkscrew from our first apartment went in to argue. Owen took the waffle maker because I had used it twice. I kept the heavy mixing bowl because he had cracked its smaller partner and denied it for 9 years. He claimed all the good knives. I claimed they had been purchased from the joint account. He left me 3 good knives and took the rest. The argument over the old Christmas tree lasted 40 minutes before we both admitted neither of us wanted it. Give it to Dean, I said. He has a tree. Lorraine? She uses a ceramic one. Beverly. She gave us this tree. We stared at the long green box in the garage. Trash? He asked. Donation. Practical. Don't. Sorry. We donated it. With 6 days left, Owen moved his business equipment into a small warehouse Dean helped him find. With 4 days left, he took the master bed apart. That night, he slept on the sofa. I heard the pull-out shriek open from upstairs. I almost went down to tell him how to avoid the metal bar. Then I remembered he had bought the sofa. He knew. Paige came once more, not for belongings, but for her mail. Owen had placed it in a neat stack on the porch. She arrived while he was loading lamps into Dean's trailer. They spoke near her SUV. There was no hug this time. When Owen returned, he found me repainting the foyer green. I had bought the closest match I could find from the old strip beneath the shelf. It's too blue, he said. It's wet. It'll still be too blue. You want to help? No. He went into the garage. 10 minutes later, he returned with a different can. Original formula, he said. You kept it? I keep paint. Paint goes bad. This one didn't. I opened the can. The color inside looked gray until I stirred it. Then the deep green rose from the bottom. We painted 1 wall each. Owen rolled too quickly. I cut corners too slowly. At the center, our wet edges met in a visible line. That'll blend, he said. I know. Do you? I bumped his roller with mine, leaving green paint across his forearm. He stared at it. That was an accident, I said. No, it wasn't. No. He rolled a stripe down the sleeve of my t-shirt. For a second, I considered retaliation. Then I laughed. It came from someplace rusty and startled both of us. Owen laughed too, leaning his roller against the wall before he ruined the floor. We stood in the foyer with paint on our clothes and 12 years between us. I missed you, he said. The laughter stopped. I was gone too long, I replied. That isn't the same answer. No. He picked up the roller. We finished the wall without speaking. With 2 days left, the house belonged to nobody's design. The dining room held my father's table and 3 mismatched chairs. The foyer was green but bare except for the brass hooks. Pale rectangles marked the walls where Owen's photographs had hung. My boxes had migrated from the studio into the front bedroom, though I had unpacked only clothes and books. Owen's belongings occupied one shrinking island in the living room. His television, 2 lamps, bedding, a coffee maker, the blue mug from Germany. I found him wrapping the mug in newspaper. You can keep it, he said. It was yours. You brought it back for me. From Germany. I know where Germany is. You once pointed to Belgium. The borders are crowded. I took the mug from him. The chip near the handle had spread into a hairline crack. You kept this and threw away the letters, I said. The mug didn't promise anything. It says Heidelberg. That's a location. So is soon. He looked at me. I wrapped the mug and put it in his box. "You should take it," I said. He did not argue. On the last morning, I woke at 4:47. The house was silent. Owen's truck and Dean's trailer were gone from the driveway. For one breath, I thought he had left without saying goodbye. Then I saw the coffee maker still on the kitchen counter and his keys beside it. A note said, "Final load. Back by 6. I spent the day cleaning rooms that did not need cleaning. I wiped cabinet shelves, swept the garage, and retightened the temporary screw in the porch rail. At 5:42, I carried my father's radio into the kitchen and set it on the counter. It picked up one AM station through a layer of static. 6 came, then 7. At 7:26, Owen's truck turned into the driveway. He parked near the garage and sat behind the wheel for almost a minute. When he got out, the truck bed was empty. "You finished?" I asked from the porch. "Mostly. You said final load. I have the sofa bedding and the coffee maker. That's one load. I know." He climbed the steps and tested the porch rail with his palm. "It's still loose. It's holding. The screw's the wrong gauge." I used what I had. Without another word, he went to his toolbox by the front door and removed the custom black brackets he had forged. I watched him reinstall them beneath the rail. "You already replaced those," I said. "The galvanized ones looked terrible. You were taking these." I changed my mind. When he finished, the rail did not move. Owen packed the galvanized brackets into his toolbox. The sun had dropped behind the trees, leaving the porch in soft blue shadow. "Are you going to Dean's?" I asked. "The duplex. Does it have power?" "Yes." "Water?" "Yes, Mara. Furniture? The bed's there. Food?" He looked at me. "Are you inspecting the property?" "I'm asking. I have food. What kind?" "Dean bought groceries. That's concerning. He bought 6 bags of peas." I laughed before I could stop myself. Owen smiled, then looked through the open door at the green foyer. I said I'd be out by midnight. "You have 4 hours." "I know." He carried his toolbox inside and set it beside the last box. Then he stood in the place where he had blocked the door 11 days earlier. "We need to talk before I go," he said. "We've talked," I said. "We've argued. That counts. Not for what I need to say." Owen moved into the dining room. My father's table stood beneath the pendant lights he had left installed. 2 chairs faced each other across the gouge in the wood. He pulled one out but didn't sit. "I knew the house was yours. I remained in the foyer. That wasn't in dispute. I knew. The whole time. Paige didn't. No, your mother knew. Yes. Dean. Yes. Seth. Lorraine. Everybody except the woman choosing cabinet colors." He gripped the back of the chair. "I didn't sit down one day and decide to steal your house. You didn't steal it. I claimed it. That isn't better. I know." I walked to the table and sat. The old chair rocked slightly because one leg was shorter than the others. My father had fixed it with folded cardboard for 30 years. Owen remained standing. "The first time I called it mine to a client, I meant the work," he said. "My renovation. My project. Then someone asked if we were going to sell, and I said I'd never sell my house. It felt normal. You lived here. Right. Then you extended again. My assignment was extended. Same result. No. To me, it was." I looked at the empty wall behind him. He continued. "Every time you stayed gone, I told myself some part of this place transferred to me. Not legally. I wasn't confused about the deed. What part? The right to decide things. The right to stop waiting. The right to be the person people came to when something broke. That sounds like a role, not ownership. It felt like ownership." I ran my thumb across the gouge in the tabletop until I came back. Before that. "Paige?" He nodded. "Did she ask who owned the house?" Not in those words. "She asked whether the divorce was settled?" I said yes. "She asked whether you were taking anything from the house?" I said no. "You knew I was taking the house. I knew you hadn't said you weren't. That sentence doesn't even support itself. I was waiting for you to choose. I told you my return date. No. Choose the house. Choose Clarksville. Choose something here without making it sound temporary. You never asked. I shouldn't have had to ask my wife whether she planned to live with me. You weren't my husband when Paige asked. He finally sat. The clock by the stairs ticked too fast, then too slow. Owen had packed its winding key by mistake, so it would stop within a few days. I told Paige you hated the house after your dad died, he said. She told me you did hate it. For a while. You wouldn't sleep in the front bedroom. You wouldn't sit on the porch because that's where he smoked. You spent every leave fixing things, then walked around looking like you couldn't breathe. I was grieving. I know that now. You knew it then. I knew the word. I didn't know what to do with you, so you redesigned the foyer. He smiled faintly. You let me. I liked seeing you proud. I thought you didn't care. Those aren't opposites. No. His smile disappeared. We were good at missing that. I studied the man across from me. Without the table he built, the project photographs, and the carefully styled rooms, Owen looked smaller in the house. Not weak, human-sized. Why did you tell me I had no home? I asked. He looked down at his bandaged thumb. The edge had started to peel. Because you said, I've come home like nothing had happened. A lot had happened. I wanted you to feel 1 second of what I felt every time you said soon. So you erased me. Yes. The answer did not defend itself. He lifted his eyes. I knew it was cruel before I finished saying it. Then why finish? Because everybody was watching. Paige, Dean, Mom. I had spent months being the man whose life was finally moving forward. Then you appeared with one bag and suddenly I was standing in your house, pretending it was mine. You could have apologized. I could have done a lot. You reached for my bag. I thought if I carried it outside, you might follow. My hands tightened beneath the table. I almost did. I know. No, you don't. The cab was there. I don't mean physically. I almost left. A hotel, another city, Louisville, anywhere that wouldn't require me to stand in a doorway and prove I belonged. Owen leaned back. The chair creaked. Why didn't you? I considered the question. Because you expected me to. He gave a short laugh. Spite. At first. And now? I don't know yet. He nodded as if uncertainty from me deserved respect. For a while, we listened to the clock. Did you ever plan to come home to me? He asked. The answer could have been generous. I no longer trusted generosity that avoided truth. During the first half of the assignment, yes. And the second? I planned to come back and see if we were still married in any way that mattered. You could have said that. You could have told me you wanted me at the courthouse. I asked for a divorce. You asked me to fight a decision you presented as final. I wanted proof. So did I. Of what? That you understood why I stayed. That my work wasn't something I did to you. That all the money, calls, lists, and arrangements counted as love even if they weren't the kind you needed. Owen looked toward the blue mug wrapped in his last box. I understood, he said. I just hated it. That would have been useful information. I told you I hated the Army. You hated what it cost. I hated that it gave you a place where you always knew who you were. I sat back. Owen's eyes shone, though no tears fell. At home, you were scared and angry and tired, he continued. At work, people listened when you spoke. They promoted you. They put your name on plaques. Every time you left, I thought you were going where you made sense. I was, and I was here with the unfinished version. That was the real version. I know. No, Owen. I didn't come home unfinished. I came home. His mouth tightened. I know that now, too, he said. The clock ticked 6 times, though it was nowhere near 6. He pulled the studio key from his pocket and placed it on the table, then the front door key, then the garage remote. I changed my address, he said. Okay, utilities transfer tomorrow, I know. Insurance has the new location for my business equipment. Good, you don't have to say good to everything. What would you prefer? I don't know, something messy. I looked around the dining room. "You took all the napkins." He laughed. It broke into a sound halfway between laughter and grief. He covered his mouth with one hand. I let him have the silence. After a minute, he said, "I made your absence mean you forfeited everything. It was easier than admitting I benefited from the same service I resented. The mortgage, the insurance, Dad's nurse, my business when it failed, the roof, the employees I paid to renovate a house I later claimed I built alone. You did build a lot, with your money, with our money." He looked at me. "Don't make me generous again," I said. "I'm trying to be accurate. You paid more. Yes. I was here more. Yes, both are true." "Yes." He rubbed his palms together. "I don't know what to do with that. Live somewhere else." A surprised laugh escaped him. "I walked into that one," he said. "You have a duplex with a terrible kitchen. You mentioned. The cabinets are particle board. I'm sorry for your loss. And the refrigerator hums. They do that. This one does it judgmentally." I smiled. Owen stood and lifted the check acknowledgement from the far end of the table. He folded it and put it into his toolbox. "Do you forgive me?" he asked. "No." He absorbed that without flinching. "Do you think you will?" "I don't know. Fair, I forgive some things." "Which?" "The Christmas tree. That wasn't my fault. You stored it badly. The box was already weak. I'm trying, Owen." He smiled again, then looked toward the stairs. "I need the bedding." I helped him fold it. Not because he needed me, not because the deadline had softened, because fitted sheets were designed by enemies and 12 years had taught us how to fold one together. We carried the bedding downstairs in a plastic bin. Owen unplugged the coffee maker, emptied the grounds, and wrapped the glass pot in a dish towel. At the front door, he picked up the last box. The blue mug lay on top, still wrapped in newspaper. "You should keep the mug," I said. He looked at it. "Why? You kept it this long. So did you. I had it for 3 days. You noticed the crack. I noticed damage." He lifted the mug from the box, unwrapped it, and hung it on one of the brass hooks. "That's not where mugs go," I said. "I'm aware. It'll fall. Then move it after I leave." He carried the box to his truck. I brought the coffee maker. On the porch, he tested the rail again, solid. We loaded the last things into the back seat. Owen closed the door and stood with his hands in his pockets. The porch light illuminated one side of his face. "It was your house," he said. "It was your home. Both were true." "Yes. I should have known they could be. You should have asked. You should have answered calls longer than 7 minutes." "I know." His eyes moved to the front bedroom window, then the studio, then the oak tree leaning toward the driveway. "I hope you stay," he said. "I haven't decided." "Right." He opened his arms slightly, not quite asking for a hug. I stepped forward. We held each other with the careful pressure of people carrying something cracked. His chin rested near my temple. I could smell sawdust, antiseptic, and the laundry detergent I had bought for years. Then we let go. No promise. No soon. Owen drove away at 10:18. The house did not become peaceful when his taillights disappeared. It became loud with absence. The refrigerator hummed. The grandfather clock stopped at 11:07. Pipes clicked behind the walls. Wind pressed a branch against the upstairs gutter. I checked the front lock 3 times. Then I took the blue mug from the hook and put it in the cabinet by the refrigerator. The first night alone, I slept in the front bedroom with the door open. I woke at 4:47 and did not get out of bed. The ceiling above me was cream. I still disliked it. I stayed until 6. The house changed slowly after that. Seth helped me repair the porch column, though we had to redo the bottom trim after he measured from the wrong edge. Lorraine came over to supervise and was banned from holding the level after she declared close enough a recognized building standard. Beverly visited with Brittle in November. It arrived properly broken. She and I drank coffee at my father's table and discussed Owen only after we had spent 20 minutes arguing about whether the mug crack had grown. Owen paid rent at the duplex, replaced its cabinet doors with his landlord's permission, and stopped by twice for mail. The second time, he brought back the cast iron skillet. You used this, I said. It smoked up the duplex. You overheated it. The ventilation is poor. You can keep it. I don't want it. We placed it in the cabinet neither of us had claimed. Paige returned in December with a photograph she had taken the night of the dinner. Not of the people. The house at dusk, every window glowing. I almost deleted it, she said. Why didn't you? Rooms matter. I hung it in the hallway, not the foyer. We did not become instant friends. We had coffee once. Then again. She showed me how to choose photographs for the walls without making the house look staged. I told her the pale pottery had looked like teeth. She laughed until coffee came out her nose. I found work at a medical distribution warehouse 40 minutes away. The title was less impressive than Mid-South's, and the salary left no room for decorative spending. My first assignment was to fix a receiving process that required one employee to enter the same shipment into 3 systems. The supervisor resisted every suggestion until I asked what he did instead. Then he showed me. Most nights I came home before dark. By spring, the foyer was deep green again. My father's radio lived on the kitchen counter. The ceremonial flag from my retirement rested folded on a shelf beside the black stone from Kuwait and the sewing kit Beverly sent me years before. The house looked like people had made decisions inside it. At my first real dinner, Seth brought grocery store pie. Lorraine brought soup despite being told dinner already existed. Beverly arrived with rolls. Paige brought flowers and placed them in an ordinary drinking glass when I admitted I did not own a vase. 2 soldiers from my old unit were passing through Clarksville, both retired and deeply suspicious of my cooking. They ate everything anyway. We crowded around my father's table. One repaired leg remained slightly darker than the others. Seth leaned back after dessert and looked around the kitchen. "You staying then?" he asked. Everyone became interested in their plates. I looked at the green foyer, the mismatched chairs, the photograph in the hallway, and the blue mug beside my hand. "Yes," I said. One of my former soldiers asked whether retirement felt like losing my purpose. I thought about all the years I had measured distance by return dates, all the people I had gotten home while treating my own home like a reward, waiting at the end of service. The Army taught me to return everything entrusted to me, I said. I'm learning, I'm allowed to remain. Seth passed me the pie. I stayed in my chair.